Shannon Lucas.
Man.
Where the hell have you been, man? Where have you been?
So I live in Virginia, so that's where I was born and raised.
Yeah. What's the name of the? So you're from a smaller town. What? How do you pronounce that?
Stanton.
Stanton.
Yeah, there's
okay.
a U in it. So
Yeah.
historically, a long time ago, because Stanton's a historical town, they would name places kind of fucked up because they would know, you could quickly identify who was from there and who wasn't from there.
Yeah.
So all down through like the Appalachians, including Appalachia itself, the word, you can tell if people are from there or not. If somebody says, the Appalachians, they're not from there.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
and
yeah.
like Stanton, there's a lot of that kind of stuff
And
where
then-
things are just spelled weird.
And then you rob them, right?
I mean, and some of it's just like country slang, like you'll see Luray, which looks like La Ray.
Okay.
But if you're from there, it's Lou Ray. It's got
okay.
that twang to it, and you can kind of tell if people are from the area or not.
Yeah.
But anyways, I was born and raised there, small town, about 2 hours west of Richmond, Virginia. So people usually might know where that's at on a map.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, finally was able to come back home after all those years. I mean, I saw you in Michigan last, and I think people probably still thought I lived there.
Yeah.
I haven't lived there since like 2011.
Yeah. Why were you there again?
I'd go up to see friends.
Okay. Cool.
And it was like a really cool week of like shows, coincidentally. Like everybody was like, Black Dahlia was actually coming through on like their first full tour with Brian at the helm.
Nice.
And so I got to see them. I got to see all you guys. And
Nice.
there was like a goat whore was playing in town. So I got to see a bunch of dudes that week. It was really cool.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. You and the coincidence of timing and Michigan and you, right? Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't have social media. So I think
I was gonna ask you that, dude. You don't have social media. How does that feel?
liberating.
How does that feel, man?
I've never really liked social media to begin with. I think there are people that enjoy it, and that's fine.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And it's useful for a lot of other people. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I know a lot of tattooers that have used Instagram religiously for their business, and that's great.
Yeah.
I never really needed it. I had Instagram in earlier years, and it was like always a chore to post something. You know what I mean? And I don't know. I have a lot of opinions on social media, and it just was not something I was that interested in. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And I think too, and I know you can attest to this, but when you travel a lot and you meet tons and tons of people, like it's easy for someone to be like, oh, we're friends because they click a heart thing on a picture that you post, and it's like that. But you don't know anything that's going on in my life. You know what I mean? Like
That's true.
the people that really care, like your close circle, they'll call you or they'll text you, even if it's like once every 6 months. You know what I mean? They'll reach out and actually talk to you. And to me, that's more meaningful. So yeah, just got away from it altogether. It's been years. Like I haven't had social media in like 5 years, probably.
That's sick.
Now there's a convenience, obviously. Like if I wanted to reach out and be like, dude, I haven't talked to you in like 10 years. How you doing? Like that's hard.
Yeah.
I have to reach out to people that know you and get your number. But that's probably okay,
Yeah.
And I figure that's like the same for me. If somebody wants to find me, if they know me, they probably know how to get a hold of me.
Yeah.
But you live everything truly for you. Like you're not doing it thinking I need to get photos or video of this so I can post it.
Yeah.
Like I got to remember to get photos to post because I have to post something today. Like
I'm the worst at when I like or around friends. I'm the worst at taking photos. 'Cause I'm trying to be in the moment. And then like my lady's like, take pictures. I'm like, I don't want to. I'm in a moment right now.
Same.
Every day, every time we're traveling, any like hangout.
Yep.
I won't take photos here because it's just
The same.
I'm hanging with Shannon.
I came to NAMM last year and I didn't take a single photo.
Nice.
And I saw so many cool old friends and hung
Yeah.
out, and I came back and everyone's like, oh man, did you take pictures? I was like, no.
No.
And of course everyone's like, all right, you got to take pictures this time. I was like, all right, I'll try.
Take one or two.
I just don't think about it. You know what I mean? And I don't want to, if I see somebody, I don't want them to think I want to get a selfie with them because I want to post it somewhere.
I know.
You know what I mean?
It just gets so weird, man. It's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough, but I think you're doing the right thing. It's
The
awesome.
memories are cool. I get it. And I have photos in my phone. I have plenty, but like, especially like if you travel, like I get the importance of documenting stuff and you can always look back on those cool memories. But for the most part, like I just want to be there and experience it. I don't really, for social media, like I don't really care about, affirmation. I know a lot of people want people to like essentially tell them they're cool or you're doing the right thing or what you're doing is awesome. Your life's great. Like, it doesn't matter to me. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Yeah, actually, I think for you it's best because I think there's one person or type of person that shouldn't have social media is a drummer.
Think so?
I think.
Oh,
I
please
think.
do tell.
I think it's a drummer, and a far away second is a singer because drummers tend to have. I think they have the hardest job, and they're under. You guys deal with the anxiety and stress of always being under a microscope as far as like technique. So you might seek validation elsewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, I've seen drummers read comments all the time. Like, you're like the one person I'll be like, you shouldn't have a phone. You know, because you're always like seeking something. And so I think I think you might be the first drummer I've known or met that doesn't have social media. You have like the personality of like, you get validation from you, and you're not just constantly like, you know.
Yeah. I'm not an attention seeker by any means. I'm like the guy that wants to sit quietly in the back of a restaurant and, you know.
And just blast.
Yeah. I'm good. Like, and that's probably the only reason I was able to be in bands and play shows all those years was because I was behind a full band. You know, I was behind other people.
Yeah.
I was sitting down behind all the furniture. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't feel like I was the center of attention. And granted, in extreme music, drummers usually get plenty of attention, but like at least created that illusion. Like, if it was like just me on stage, I don't think I could do it.
A solo blaster? Fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
That'd be sick, man.
I don't think I could do it. There's a lot of guys that are great at it. I just
Yeah. Well, it's cool that you're not so private that you're actually willing to go out and have conversations like this, you know.
No, I enjoy talking to people. It's definitely not that at all. I mean, I'm a homebody, you know what I mean? And I like my space just like anyone else, but I enjoy talking and I enjoy, you know, storytelling hour, you know what I mean? Cuz we got to live in a really cool place in the universe and see a lot of unique stuff and you know, I can see why it's interesting, you know, from the outside looking in.
Now, we both kind of had we're in like the kind of like a last bit of an era. You know, we're like that last bit. There's no cell phone. The records are still selling. You know, it's crazy.
Yeah.
So how does it feel to be? Well, you're not home, but at least you're like home state. You know, how does it feel to be kind of in your home state?
I love it. I'm very proud to be from where I'm from. You know, I got to travel and live in bigger places and experience all that. You know, when I was younger. At the end of the day, I like a small town. I like rural. You know what I mean? Like I grew up around farms, and you know I'm in the valley between two mountain ranges. So
nice, beautiful, man.
It's quiet. It's low traffic, low crime. You know what I mean? Just a lot of kind of simple country folks. So
nice.
Got some family there, so it's just nice. Yeah.
Cool. So you're born and raised in a smaller town. So it seems like you're really connected with like Slayer or something, and that's what really made you want to start riffing.
Slayer was actually the band. That was like, by the time I was 15, I was like obsessed with Slayer. Like, had like everything in their catalog. You know what I mean? And that's what I wanted to do, was play that kind of stuff. You know, so I was playing guitar a lot still. Yeah.
So you were playing guitar first. Nice.
Yeah. First love.
First love. Slayer.
Yep. Slayer.
How did you? So how did you hear him first?
So, one of my favorite bands of all time is Pantera. Just
of course.
Big fan.
Of course.
And that was kind of like the big door that opened. And after that, it was like, okay, here's other extreme metal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Extreme for that age. I was in middle school, and it was shortly before, or around the same time, like Korn's first album came out, which is also for me influential because I was just getting into playing music when all that stuff started to kind of come out. So you had like Pantera in the mid '90s, you had Korn in the mid '90s, Slayer. What were they doing in the mid '90s? Diabolus in Musica, I think. That was like that first low tuned record that they put out.
That was the one that no one liked, right?
I loved it. Yeah,
okay.
But yeah, they got flack for it. I personally, I liked it. I can understand why some people were like they didn't like it, but
sure.
Yeah, I just think I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, actually, I know what it was. I was jamming with this guy when I was 15. He played guitar as well. He's a couple years older than me, and he showed me a lot of like music I'd never heard. Like he showed me like I just never heard Priest. He showed me Priest, but he showed me like newer Priest at the time. It was that Jugulator album that Ripper Owens was singing on.
Nice.
When Halford left the band for a hot minute, and I love the Jugulator album. But he showed me like Typo Negative, like Bloody Kisses era. He showed me Slayer, but the first album he ever showed me was Show No Mercy, the first one that came out in '83 on Metal Blade.
Nice.
And you'd think that at 15 you'd be like, high pitched vocals and like, sounds like it, was recorded in a metal tunnel. Like,
sure.
But I loved it, and I just wanted more of it, and so that was kind of the spark. And then it was off to the thrash race, and was hearing faster double bass, and it's like you work your way up. Like, you're not starting with Cannibal Corpse. Like, you gotta
versus Black Album. Black Album in your dash truck, and you're like, okay, what's this?
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
that's part exactly.
Yep. He had the Black Album, and that was my introduction to Metallica. And
dude,
then, of course, went backwards from there.
Imagine what you don't even think about it, but what that record really did. That probably introduced so many people. A lot, dude. They don't really get that much credit for that record because obviously it just blew up.
I get why people hate on it, because it is the beginning of the change for them.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, what did they have left to prove? After the first 4.
Yeah, dude.
You know what I mean?
It's done.
And it's a brilliant album.
It's done,
you know what I
dude.
mean? I get
They're
it. It's not like, the fast, it doesn't have like the crazy double bass, and, it's got more of the slower tunes on it. It's a good album though. You know what I mean?
It's sick.
But it does open the door for a lot of people.
So many people.
And those bands
man.
are necessary.
Yeah. Those bands and those records are, you fucking need them.
Mm-hmm.
You need that gateway. Yeah, I remember when I first heard Enter Sandman, like, this is sick, dude. This is sick. And then opens up the door. I was one thing I couldn't really find on you. It seemed so you found guitar first. Like it seemed like you didn't really own a drum set. So you went into high school band, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then, but you didn't really own like a drum set, right?
In the beginning, no. I was like probably 13, maybe 14, playing in like, garage bands, emulating whatever you can at that stage of your playing.
Okay.
And I started doing the school band thing, and it was weird. I've had this discussion before. With drums, I don't really remember a time where I could sit down behind a kit and I couldn't play a basic beat. It's like as soon as I sat down, I could just play something.
Really?
Yeah, it was weird. Like I could just emulate, basically.
Huh.
I didn't know if I knew what I was doing, but I was just emulating stuff. I could hear it and go, all right, I think I know what he's doing. And
really?
I could just kind of get it to work. So my first kit, my uncle played drums growing up, and he played in like country bands. Mm-hmm. So the first kit I got was like some youth kit that he had from way back in the day. Mm-hmm. I mean, they didn't have bottom heads on them. You know what I mean? I didn't have any cymbals. I was like beating on rims and, but I could sit and play and like I could play like Nirvana songs and sing to them while I was playing them. Yeah, it was weird. And so I was like, okay, like drums are fun, but I didn't want to be a drummer. And I think I finally got a drum kit. I got a drum kit for Christmas. It was like a Pearl export or something when I was probably 14. And it was just something I did for fun on the side.
Hey, it was like your side chick.
Yeah,
I just got a side chick for Christmas, dude.
I didn't want to be with her, but she was fun.
That's sick.
Yeah, and it wasn't until like I started to like, see people doing double bass, like Pantera and what little bit there was, and like on the first Korn album, little spurts here of double kick and stuff that I was like, oh, that's cool. Like I want to be able to do that too. I was drawn to both, and by 15. It was like, we were trying to emulate Slayer, and there were no drummers.
And you were forced onto the kit, right?
Yeah, forced into the drums.
Wow.
Because I knew the parts, and I could emulate them, and I could do the double bass and stuff. And in a small town, like you're lucky if there's a drummer that's like wants to play like Rage Against the Machine. They're not down with Slayer. So
yeah, how did you even having that little like connection is tough.
Yeah.
Because I know like a lot of people struggle with like being from like a smaller town, being around farms similar to you, and like, man, who do I even jam with?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I jammed with like the same guys. Well, the same bass player, he was like my best friend during those years, and You know, we're still connected, but he played in like every band. So like all the changes along the way, you know, going from like when you're 13, 14 in the 90s emulating Nirvana or Green Day or whatever's accessible as like a new player, and then moving into like Metallica and then into Slayer and then into like something more extreme. He was like with me during all that. And then, you know, different drummers before I ended up playing drums. And yeah, it's hard. I mean, you end up putting up a flyer in like the record store in town and hoping that somebody wants to jam. And so, and there were no places to play, very few places to play.
What, just like what, like your garage or something? I mean,
you would do like house parties or something, or
a house party.
Yeah, you know, like there was like a small venue about 35 minutes away. That was like the goal, right? Because they had a stage and like an actual PA, and you felt like you were, you know, playing the Coliseum. You know, I mean, it was a small venue.
Was it more like, was it a venue, or was it like a bar?
It was a venue. Like they would get small tours would come through there. Like I actually saw Deicide there once, which was super cool.
Oh wow, nice.
They would have small stuff come through.
Sick, cool. How is it being in school band? How is that? So you're playing quads, right?
I played quads in high school. Yeah, I did a couple years, and then I was trying to practice with my band all the time, and we wanted to play shows, so they were really interfering. So I stepped away. I told my band director, I was like, hey man, I'm trying to do this in my personal life, and I can't do both. And he was very understanding and respectful of it, and that was that. And like, he's a really cool guy, and we actually still talk here and there.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
that's cool.
His first year at the high school was my freshman year, and he's still there, and he's probably close to retiring at this point. But he, just a great guy. You know, I probably gave him way too much shit, and he didn't deserve it.
Yeah,
but
he's like, I'm trying to blast right now, man. I don't know if I could be here.
I just wanted
senior year, dude,
to do something busy. So quads were a little bit more busy, and even then, like it was cool because I liked playing music. You know, I didn't really care for like the outfits and stuff like that. But
did you still have those outfits, dude?
No, they own them. There's like a couple photos floating around, but
oh man, we gotta find them.
I can hook you up.
Yeah, are quads like, are they just toms?
Essentially,
right?
Yeah, just smaller toms that have, you know, more specific notes, and there's quads and quints, and there's
What's a quint?
It's 5.
5, okay. Oh yeah, okay. it like clicked, and like it's like chain linking.
Yeah.
You know, were you ever like practicing your rolls?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I couldn't take them home. I couldn't take them home or anything, but
that'd be sick, dude.
And the stuff wasn't as busy as I would have liked, you know, because I was listening to fast stuff, so I wanted to, you know, rip through them. But they gave me a lot of freedom, you know, to church stuff up or whatever.
Sick. So you did that up until your junior year. Mm-hmm. What did you do your senior year? Did you drop out?
No, actually, I had. So I wasn't going for an advanced diploma. I knew college wasn't for me. I wanted to go make rock and roll, right?
So I'm trying to rock.
Yeah, but so I needed like 2 credits or something to get like a diploma. So I homeschooled the 2 credits. And
lucky!
Got out early, dude. Yeah.
Did you do your homework?
No, I was a terrible student.
But but
I did enough to get out.
Yeah, but 2 credits. How many classes is that?
It was like, well, I had to do 2 and then like a couple garbage ones, but it was really easy stuff because you're doing it at home.
What the heck, man?
Yeah, it was
lucky.
Like a little too easy, to be fair.
Lucky, man. Yeah, junior year, my counselor said that I wasn't going to graduate senior year. So they said the only way to get enough credits to graduate is if you have a full day, and then you have one more class after school's over, and then you do night school.
Ugh.
So you know how senior year some people will have short days, or now you were homeschooled, like some people have half days. So all the people I knew would just go home after lunch or like pre-lunch. I'm just like the loser senior. I had school all day and a class after and night school. It sucked.
That's terrible. I think, you know, most of my friends in high school were older.
Yeah.
And so like by the time my senior year was rolling around, like I had no friends left. They were all gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to be here. Like,
I'm leaving this fucking dump.
Yeah, all my people are gone. Like, you know, I'm just spinning wheels. Like,
what's up, everybody? It helps the podcast if you listen to the ads and support the sponsors. They literally help keep the lights on, allow us to consistently put out new episodes every week, and help grow this thing so we can continue to get bigger guests for all you to enjoy. We really appreciate it. DistroKid is the easiest way to get your music on all streaming platforms. Get your songs onto iTunes, Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube Music, and more. Check it out at distrokid.com/VIP/Garza to get 30% off your membership. That's distrokid.com/VIP/Garza to get 30% off. We are also brought to you by Sweetwater, the #1 online retailer for pro audio and music instruments. Whenever the band or myself need anything for a tour, we always go to Sweetwater. If you need any music gear, click the link in the description below so you know you came from the podcast. Positive Grid. We have the cabs right here. They are the best portable amps out there. Anywhere from handheld amps to these cabs right here. Whatever your tone needs are, check out positivegrid.com. And that's it. Appreciate you listening to the ads. And now back to our conversation with Shannon Lucas. Yeah, I was going to ask you. Okay, so you got your drum set. You're in band, and then I assume you wanted to go to Richmond because you wanted to find kind of just more people to jam with.
Oh yeah, there was a scene. I knew there was a scene there. But it was like a coincidental kind of thing. It was like I wanted to get out and go chase it, and by coincidence, met some girl who was just moving out there.
Oh, of course.
And so
I found out the real reason.
Yeah, dude. Chased a girl there. You know,
it wasn't because we're trying to rock. We're trying to get
long enough to like get there and live. And like as soon as I got there, I was able to like find bands to join and you know, off to the races.
Yeah. Did you meet Corey through a magazine or?
It was an online mag, yeah. So, funny enough, I'd actually played a show with one of his old bands in like Winchester, Virginia, of all places, and but I remembered them, and I think they remembered that night.
Yeah.
But he had since then had joined Guar.
Okay.
And then
guitar player for those that don't know.
Yeah, he was Flatus Maximus, and he had another band on the side, which kind of sound like influenced by a lot of Swedish metal, you know, kind of a little bit of soil work in there, you know. Obviously, everybody at that time was influenced by, you know, Meshuggah's albums coming out of the 90s.
Oh, there's so many knockoffs. It was getting too much. Dude.
And nobody could emulate it.
It's true.
Well, they still can't, but nobody could even get close in like, you know, the early 2000s. But
true.
So it was something like that. But anyways, they had lost their drummer, and they had put out an ad on, I think it was called like Punchline Mag. It was like a
Punchline. I was like, what is the name of that mag?
Yeah, it was some like online, you know, classifieds for like art and music or whatever. And I had just found out about it, so I put a thing on there. I was like wanting to play drums and something that was like, I don't even think I knew how to describe it at the time. But I think I was attracted to like Swedish sounding, you know, metal, you know, that kind of like harmonic minor, you know, at the Gatesy type of thing.
Yeah, how do you? That's you brought up a good point. How do you like describe that? Right?
I think it's
like what do you actually put down on the ad? Right?
I think I was probably listing bands that I was into.
There you go. That's
you know
it.
what I mean? Because like, how else?
Is this it? Punchline? Or no?
Alternative Humor Monthly. Is that it?
This is 97 Punchline.
RVA Mag.
But it was online, right?
Yeah.
Or so did they have any like physical or
Not that I knew. They may have. I mean, I was like just turned 19, moved to Richmond, you know, never lived in a city before, like
trying to get a girlfriend.
yeah, like just no clue what I was doing, and somebody pointed me to the Punchline and was like, "Oh, you can put something here." And I got a bunch of calls immediately. People were like, you know, putting together bands for different things, and the Corey thing popped up first. It was like the other guy playing guitar in the band, this guy Nate, and he told me about it. And then we kind of connected like, oh, I met you guys before because you were in this other band at one point. We played some show a long time ago. But anyways, it was like, hey, I want to get up with you, chat with you. I want to give you like a few songs to check out, see if you like it, learn the songs, and maybe we'll try you out when Corey gets back into town. And so, yeah, audition. You know, hung out with them, got the gig, and then just started learning.
Now, learning, that's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
So now how do I do this? How do I do that?
Yeah, I was just a kid that could play, but I didn't know anything about anything, right? Like, Never recorded, never played to a click. Like,
It's the best time though.
yeah, it was cool. I learned a lot from Corey. You know, it was like
Yeah.
playing to a click and like, you know, going into a small studio for the first time.
Corey taught you that how to play to a click, really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because he wanted to record the album to the click, which why wouldn't you? And
Sure.
it was like the first time I'd ever done that. You know what I mean? So I got my first exposure there.
Interesting. Like, that band comes off as like this raw dog. Like,
Yeah,
like they like War sounds like a band that wouldn't even do a click, but I
they
could be wrong.
They grew over time. You know what I mean? They're more that there was like a metal element to the band. You know, because they were very much like a kind of punk rock in the early years. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, if you listen to the stuff like post 2000s, they were definitely a lot more metal,
Mm-hmm.
which I think Corey probably helped usher some of that in.
Yeah.
But
Cool. And were you still dating a chick or what?
no, I mean that only lasted probably, maybe a year.
Of course. It's
Maybe
always
a
a year.
Yeah, you know,
It's
just
always a year.
just a dumb young kid. I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And chasing music first and foremost. And I think
Mhm.
like, you know, when you're young like that, parents look at you and they're like, you know, that's not going to work. Like you're going to date our daughter. You need to have a career and be able to like help pay bills and all that, which makes sense. I get it, you know, from a parent perspective. But
Is that what her did you meet her parents?
oh yeah,
And that's what they told you?
oh yeah.
What were you thinking?
You're
like, I'm not gonna-
I pretty much bit into it like for a minute. So like at one point I actually told Corey like I need to step away from all this and I need to go get a job and like he was like, "Are you sure, dude?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "No." But I went and so they knew somebody.
You're 19.
Yeah, they knew somebody who could get me an interview with this electric company as like an apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
And just the person said, "Yeah, I'll put in a word for him." And I went and I
Yeah.
interviewed with this like company. And the guy was like, you know, you're going to start off and you're going to train and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, the reality was like, you know, in 20 years, you know, in that trade, you can actually make really good money,
Huh.
you know?
Yeah.
But the whole time I'm like, I had that feeling in my gut, like, this is not what I want out of my life. This is not, I don't think this is for me.
So close,
You know what I mean? And the
dude.
relationship wasn't even like it was like perfect, you know, where I was willing to throw my life in a blender to save it. I was a kid, you know? So
Dude,
I remember driving home after that interview, and I think I probably took maybe a day after that, and I called Corey and was like, "Nah, man, I don't want to do that." He knew. I think he kind of knew. Like, he'll be back, you know. And I was like, "Yeah, I don't want to do this." And so I called the guy that you know gave me the job, and I thanked him, and I was like, "Hey, man, I don't think this is for me, dude." I was like, "I want to play music for a living, and the truth behind it is." This chick's parents were telling me like there's you know
Wow.
it's not gonna be a career, you're not gonna go anywhere with it, go get a job,
Oh
you know what I
my
mean? And I'm like, so if they
So
don't
close.
want me to hang out with her no more and she don't want me to hang out, then that's fine, I'm gonna go rock and roll, you know what I mean? So
Like,
that was that.
see you later, bitch.
I was done, you know. I was like I got shit to do.
Dude, imagine if you just a simple yes or no and your mind will drastically change the direction in your life. Imagine if you would have stayed there. You would be so much fatter now and probably have like fucking what, three kids?
If that. I mean, I don't know. The relationship didn't end up working anyways. It wasn't gonna work, but
What you do?
huh?
What you do?
Oh, I didn't do anything.
It's fucking stop texting back, stop calling back.
You know, like she had moved back to like where she was from in Winchester, and like I don't know, some weird stuff was going on up there. You know what I mean? Because I didn't live there. I was like hour and a half away,
Sure.
and I was like, this ain't working. So
This guy's a loser.
I was like, see, ya. You know what I mean? It's all
Cool.
good. We're just kids.
Nice. So then, at what point did so you started playing drums for this band called War Torn, right?
Yeah. So same group of friends.
Yeah.
Bass player from Mens Rea was also in War Torn.
Sick.
And I had made really good friends with the guitar player, Adam. It was a scene in Richmond, but it was like any town. It's like an incestuous scene. Everybody's played with everybody at some point. You know what I mean? Everyone's been in a band with somebody.
Yeah.
And the drummer for both of those bands, so the prior drummer to Mens Rea and the drummer for War Torn at the time were related. They were like brothers.
Oh wow.
And I ended up replacing the one in War Torn, and great dude, you know.
Yeah.
But it was kind of interesting. I kind of took over both of those bands. And War Torn was like old school kind of grindy death, influenced type of material. So all of a sudden now I'm playing in a band with like blast beats and like, faster double bass. And like the dude, Adam, gave me this stack of like Burn CDs and was like, study this shit. It was stuff I'd never heard of. I had heard of the obvious bands, like Cannibal and things like that. But like he was showing me like all the Unique Leaders stuff that was popping, in the early 2000s. And he was showing me a lot of like Swedish grind, like he was like, here's Nasm and here's Regurgitate. And like,
oh, fuck yeah.
And
dude.
then it was like the collab stuff like Lock Up, with Nick Barker and like, Lindbergh. And so then all of a sudden I'm like listening to this like underground death metal and I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Like I'm like hearing the real clicky triggers from like the early 2000s, that just made death metal. And yeah, look at that. I was there, I think. Yeah, we were there.
2010?
Yeah. Brutal Assault. Yep.
And this is in Prague, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, you guys have done that, right?
Yeah, once.
That place is cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great.
The old military camp.
Yeah. Bands like us definitely don't belong there, but things are changing.
Things have definitely changed.
Yeah. And people hated deathcore for the longest time, especially that kind of circle.
That whole conversation, man. It's like metalcore prior, right? It was like a dirty word, which is stupid because now no one cares.
No one cares now. It's so bizarre.
Like when I was in All That Remains, Phil hated the term. He's like, I don't want to be called metalcore. I want to be just a metal band. I'm like, I get it. Mm-hmm. And now it's like no one cares. When you talk about metalcore, it doesn't seem like a dirty word anymore.
No, it's actually hot now. It's hot.
It is.
Anyway, so with this band War Torn, that's how you started playing like your first big shows, and that's how you eventually kind of met the members of Speaking of All That Remains, correct?
So through Mens Rea, actually, War Torn, we played a couple shows, but we didn't do a whole lot of shows. But it was interesting because Corey he could kind of tell that like once I got into War Torn, like my heart was into like the playing the fast stuff. He could tell like I wanted to do the blasting and ripping.
Yeah.
But Mens Rea, because of Corey, got opening spots with Guar shows.
Mm.
So we did like one show in like I think it was like Virginia Beach or something, and it was like my first big show. Where it's like 1,000, 1,200 kids.
Yeah.
Well, kids, probably adults, but
it's a big moment.
Look at that.
It's a big moment,
dudes.
Oh yeah, is it?
So that's the guy just to the left of the guy on the far right.
Mm-hmm.
That was their original drummer who came back after I departed and went off.
Nice.
But yeah, the guy on the far right, Dave, he played bass in both bands. He played in War Torn.
Nice. That logo. That might be one of the worst logos I've ever seen.
That's not an attractive logo.
Do what you gotta do, man.
Yeah. But it was fun, and I played that first show and was just like, I got a taste of it. It was like, whoa, like
you got the taste.
Had the clammy hands before the show, like all nervous and stuff, and probably played everything way too fast. And
of course,
they weren't a fast band, so. Yeah, we got like a week probably. It was like a week opening up for Guar, and I was probably 20,
nice.
maybe 21.
Nice.
And roughing it in a van, but I was like all about that life.
Yeah,
that's all I wanted to do. Because even at home in Richmond, I was like delivering pizza as a job because I wanted something that I was comfortable just walking away from. Yeah. I didn't want to get some like cool job that I was like, man, I kind of don't know if I want to quit. What if I come back in 2 weeks and I don't have I can't get it back.
Yeah.
So I was like, nah, just deliver pizza. You know what I mean? And that was cool and fun, and I got to ride around my car and listen to metal. And
yeah, what do you think? I keep hearing this, like the one of the best pre-jobs to have before you start touring, like, is being a pizza delivery driver.
I'll agree. It's instant cash. You can kind of pop in and out. You know what I mean? They always need drivers to show up and do shifts, and it was great for me. I could leave and come back anytime and get a job and deliver a little bit, and you find a lot of people there that it's like their second job, like a lot of older guys.
Oh yeah,
that will just do it on the side, like school teachers and stuff. You know what I mean? They'll pick up night shifts and just drive and deliver. And
dude, yeah, I met so many different kinds of people. Like here, what they like deliver pizza here is all kinds of people, all ages, all. Mm-hmm. There's this. I need some tips. I'm like, damn, cool.
Yeah. So it was cool. But yeah, it gave me the ability to leave when I was ready to leave.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I'm out, dude.
Yeah.
Did you quit?
What, delivering pizza?
Yeah, yeah.
I quit. Well, not until the All That Remains thing happened.
Yeah. So how did these guys come into your life?
So they were out doing a tour. It was Dying Fetus, All That Remains, and Guar, which is a cool package.
Great.
Fetus had John Longstreth filling in on drums. It was before Trey joined the band. And I was an Origin fan already, so it was cool watching John play Dying Fetus stuff.
Yeah.
And All That Remains, I had seen like a music video for the album they were touring, and I was like, oh man, this band's coming up. You know, they're making a splash. They were in Prosthetic, and they were getting tours and stuff. So we got to open up about a week's worth, and just being there, you know, you kind of mingle with them. And Matt Dice, who's back in the band, the bass player for All That Remains, him and I kind of hit it off, and they were touring a lot, and I think they were looking for drums that were just a bit more extreme. You know what I mean? Like their old drummer was like more of like a rock drummer. You know what I mean? And just wasn't doing real fast stuff. And I think a lot of the competition for them at the time.
A lot of competition during that area.
Oh my gosh,
a lot of competition, man.
That was like the golden era of that kind of, you know, those kinds of bands. And there was some good competition at the time. You know, and like Unearth had put out The Oncoming Storm, which was like ridiculous, and you know, Jason Bittner. You know what I mean? Shadows Fall was like at their peak, and so I think he really wanted to like have the band stand out. You know what I mean, in that regard. And so I think it was just one of those things. I was a young guy that was playing and doing a bunch of stuff and wanted to go fast and wanted to tour. And they were like, Matt joked around and was like, you know, you should just join our band. And I was like, let's go. Yeah. You know, I was like ready to take an opportunity because I knew like Mens Rea wasn't going to ever really do anything as long as Guar was in the picture. You know what I mean? And even then, you never know, you know, if a band's really going to be in demand or not. You can be a great band, but just be the wrong time in music and in, you know, in that part of metal for you to work out. So, yeah, we kind of exchanged numbers around the last show. And then I went back to Richmond and went back to my pizza delivery life.
Boom.
And I'm driving around and I get a call from Phil Labonte. And he's like, hey, man, I got your number from Matt. He's like, I know you and Matt been kind of, you know, you guys joke around about you playing with the band. He's like, but how serious are you? And I was like a heart attack, man. You know, I was like, I want to go. And he was like, all right. He was like, well, we're getting ready to do this tour. It was like, I think All That Remains and As I Lay Dying and Throwdown or something like that. And he was like, well, we're going to be out for like a month. We got to finish this tour. He's like, it gives you about a month. He's like, can you learn all of this Darkened Heart? And then when we get off tour, we'll audition you. And I was like, yep, cool. So I just started learning the whole album. And it wasn't even, they were in the middle of the tour somewhere and they came through Richmond, Virginia. They were playing like this old venue called Alley Cat.
Alley Cat. Yeah, did you have like a kind of like a joke tryout at like a lockout or something, right?
It wasn't. It was weird. It was like, okay, so they're playing Alley Cat, and I'm like, I'm gonna come out and hang out, and they're like, oh, cool. So I come out and I'm chilling, and Phil's like, where do you rehearse at? And I was like, man, I'm like play with two bands. Like we rehearse in this like it was a storage unit that
even worse
that we carpeted and we built a dummy wall. You know, to catch sound in front of the actual like metal door.
Fuck yeah.
And so it actually wasn't bad. It was a pretty good setup. And like every now and then, like Darkest Hour would rehearse there before tour. You know, because they were at the time half DC, half Richmond.
Oh yeah.
And we knew those guys as well. Like when Chris Norris was in the band. And so I was like, yeah, it's like we have 24-hour access over there, and we don't, no one's ever bothered by it. And he was like, would you want to go over there tonight? So it was this like weird secret op. Felt like we were cheating on somebody kind of mission where like I went and picked up, it was like Phil, Ollie, and Matt Dice in like little car. And we hauled over onto the south side to the practice space. And, basically we jammed out a couple songs and, Phil was like, man, cool. And I knew kind of what he wanted to hear because I knew like what he was looking for. And he was like, I'm going to play a riff and I want you to just play something to it. And so it was easy. I played exactly what I felt was appropriate, and I think it was what he was looking for. And he was like, you got the job. So it was like a weird, Yeah, weird audition. And I had to pretty much just wait for them to finish tour. And then they came back with a van and trailer and picked up my crap, and I loaded the rest of my shit in a car and followed them up to Massachusetts.
And then you basically under a month you basically moved there.
Oh yeah, it was quick. And it was like I was a kid with like little money, you know what I mean? I didn't know anybody up there. I didn't really even know them.
Oh my goodness.
Matt Dice was like, they had like an in-law suite in his parents' house, like the bottom floor, and he was like, "Yeah, you can crash there." And I was like, "Okay, cool." But it was really weird, you know what I mean? And like just finally left home and was in this new place and didn't know anybody, and it was kind of weird. And like, and then like he kind of went MIA.
Change, man.
He went MIA, like he just disappeared for a few days, and it was like nobody knew what was going on. Yeah, we had started to rehearse. You know, we were rehearsing in like Phil's mom's basement.
Of course.
And all of a sudden Matt disappears. And he comes back and like nobody knew where he was. And I go over to practice and I'm sitting like outside of like the door. I was in the driveway, but like this is the door that goes downstairs, so I could kind of hear Phil down there. And he was kind of like chewing Matt out. Like, dude, like we have a show coming up. You know, with a new drummer, he has to learn this whole set, and you just disappear for days on end, and no one can find you. Like, what the fuck, you know? And Matt was like, I quit. He was like, I'm joining CKY. That's where he had gone. He had gone out to audition for them. And I'm sitting in this driveway like, what the fuck am I doing? You know,
what do I get myself into?
Yeah, like I'm in this weird place. This dude just left this band. Like, where am I going to live? Like,
holy crap.
Matt was like, he was like, hey, look, my parents said you can crash, you know, stay there until like you get back from the first tour because there was a tour coming up. And he was like, but after that, you got to figure out where you're going. And I was like, okay. And so it was like this whole mess, man. The first tour too, like we had like fill-in bass players. It was like a whole mess. Like we had a bass player. It was a guy that had played with All That Remains in the past and had left over something weird. And then like, he was in Blood Has Been Shed, you know, Howard's old band, which is gnarly. And he joins the band, and we do like a video and a photo shoot, and then we go off to tour, and he quits after day one. Just leaves.
Oh,
just disappears. Yeah. So we had fill-ins. We had like Slow and Ken from Unearth filled in. Jeannie, before she joined the band, she was actually on the tour, like working a vendor thing. And she did a song. Nate, who was in Mens Rea, who was working for Guar was on Sounds of the Underground, so he did a song, and like I think after a couple days, I think it was just Ken and Slow doing the whole set. It was like a mess. It was a total mess, but it was still cool, and I just was so grateful to be out there doing it. And I was like learning from watching all these dudes, you know, like Gene Hogan was on the tour, and like Kevin Talley, and like all these guys that I like looked up to as drummers, and I was just like, holy shit! So I'm just drinking from the fire hose, watching what these guys are doing.
Yeah. It's kind of like your heroes, you know.
Yeah, 100%.
You know, whatever happened to Sounds of the Underground? What happened to that tour?
They did a couple years. And
was that 2 years, right?
I think.
I went to one. It was the one that Guar headlined.
Oh, they did both years. They were like,
oh, they did, huh?
They were the halftime show.
Oh yeah,
it was wild.
That's wild.
Yeah,
dude, I didn't know all that. Like, fucking left your home state and kid and.
I was like, I was ready to take any opportunity, you know. Man. Came back and just kind of floated from place to place, you know, like sleeping on futons and couches, and I had a couple totes of my crap, and I would just put them in garages and go off and do a tour and come back. And
dude, like you really helped that band take off, man. What, like the first song you guys wrote was "This Calling," which really kind of propelled them, you know.
Yeah.
First one. Boom.
Yeah. It was like I mean, it was really kind of like just a perfect storm.
Perfect storm. It happens, dude.
Yeah. It was like the right time, you know, you have the right launch ramp for an album. So like Ozfest 06 was the launch ramp for that album. And then there was like the Saw 3 soundtrack. So it was like the first song that rolled on the Saw 3 soundtrack. So it was all these things combined, but it was like there were a lot of really good bands in that kind of genre at that time, and you know, we just kind of pushed it a little further, you know, like threw in some blast beats and some extra fast double kick, and then you know, and then had some parts where it laid back and was just like a rock beat, you know what I mean? Disco beat. And Phil did his heavy vocals, and then he had some really catchy clean singing stuff, and it was just I don't know, It's kind of like the perfect storm.
Yeah, maybe it was in their minds, but were you thinking about any like competition or like what was going on like around you, or were you just doing your own thing?
I was doing my own thing.
Nice.
I loved death metal, and so it was like a way for me to kind of sprinkle stuff in there. You know, I didn't want to overplay because the guitar work was so good. There was a lot of sections where you needed just a basic like AC/DC beat. You know what I mean? And let the guitars really speak. Yeah. And then there were parts where it's like the Vinnie Paul approach. You know what I mean? Like he didn't really do double bass unless it was absolutely necessary.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And let Dime really shine, you know? So.
Yeah. Yeah, did they bring in like a riff or two, or like, oh, hey, this is a song we guys just going back and forth in a room, or what?
When we wrote that album?
Oh, that song in particular.
All in a room, just in a room. Because at that time, like, you got to think like 2005, like people had laptops, but not everybody. Now, like everybody's got a computer, right? But it's funny to think about. Like in the early 2000s, like there were a lot of people that just weren't computer users.
Yeah.
And we didn't have the ability to record easily back then. Like now it's super easy to record, right? Yeah. There's free DAWs. There's like great plugins. The plugins are cheap. Anybody can plug in and just, you know, and there's software to make, you know, sick MIDI drums. You know, none of that was really a thing back then. I mean, it was, but it just wasn't common. So we didn't have that capability. I think at one point I was like the only person in the band with a laptop, you know? So we just hashed it out in the room, the old fashioned way. You know what I mean? We wrote This Calling first, and then we actually tested it out on a tour. We went out with like, it was like Arch Enemy, 6 Feet Under, and I think 3 Inches of Blood was on that. And we tested out that song and thought it went pretty well. And then we came back and we had time, so we just wrote an album in a room.
Wow, that really set the tone, you know?
I'm sure you've done that plenty. Worked out complete songs or whole albums in a room with people, but like,
of course,
you know, there's a lot of emotions that happen when you do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which can either be a good outcome or a bad outcome. You know,
goes either way.
Yeah.
It just depends where you're at or where the band's at. It's hard. It's hard to plan that.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah, we gone back and forth. You know, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. You know, someone, you know, but so the record's done. And then you want to go out on tour with them.
Yeah, so the whole thing was like, and you know, there was some disagreements and, you know, hard feelings there for a little while, and you know, we've long since buried the hatchet.
Of course,
you know what I mean?
It takes time.
You know, there were a couple tours that we did where I literally came home with no money. You know what I mean? And regardless of what the reason is, whether it's a band that's in debt that makes bad decisions or whether it's somebody being in the dark, either way, you do enough of it and you come home and you're like, I don't even have enough for ramen, dude. So at the time I was like working shows when we would come back home, you know, at the time, you know, Scott Lee.
Yeah.
So Scott Lee was managing All That Remains in this era. It was Scott Lee and Leah Urbana. And when I would come back, they had a record store that they kind of operated out of. So I would go work the record store, or Scott would be like, hey, come to the record store. And he would basically have me go pick up lunch for everybody and would buy me lunch for doing it. So that would be like how I ate. Or it'd be like the Palladium, you know, he ran all the shows at the Palladium for the most part. So I would ride out there with him in the morning and just work all day as much as I could, you know, loading gear or going to like pick up catering crap. Just to make any kind of money, you know what I mean, to like afford a cell phone bill. I sold like everything I had pretty much. Like I had no guitar, you know, sold my guitar. I sold anything I had just to pay basic bills. It finally got to a point where I was like, dude, I can't keep going out for nothing, man.
Yeah.
And he was like, you know, well, I can't make you any promises. And I was like, well, I'm not going. So I didn't go. And it was like, I went back to Richmond and they got a fill in. The dude Colin filled in, and they did a music video for This Calling that I'm not in, and
it was very confusing.
It was very confusing, even for me. It was confusing. I was like, because I didn't, you know, all of a sudden I have this album that's not out, and I'm like, man, we worked so hard on this. It's a great product.
Oh, it wasn't even out. It wasn't out yet. Oh,
and I was like, man, I really wanted to like play this and tour this and see where it goes. You know, it's like your little child. You want to see it birthed. You know.
Yeah.
And I was delivering pizza for like a month or so, and then I was like, man, I don't think I'm done. I gotta figure this out. So Phil and I talked, And, you know, we were like willing to talk it out, and Phil wanted me to come back and play, you know, and I wanted to come back, and I really wanted to do Ozfest because that was like slated for the summer, you know what I mean? And I was like, man, I really want to do that. Like,
well, yeah.
So yeah, of course. So I came back and, did Ozfest and saw the album release. And then,
cool.
You know, I did one more tour right after Ozfest. It was like, Dragon Force had blown up and was doing a headliner in the States, playing like huge venues, like Nokia Theater in New York, you know, like big.
Yeah.
And we got on that tour, direct support, which was super cool. And
nice.
I saw that through, and I think there was just some there were disagreements with money along the way, you know what I mean? And I got towards the end of it, and I just felt like my time had come. You know, it was like I'm gonna go pursue something else. You know what I mean? I supported the album a bit, you know, did some tours, made a little bit of a name for myself, and I'm like, maybe this will be enough to carry me somewhere else. And it was like all happened like really, really fast. Like I did my last show with them, you know, in like late 2006. You know, it was like a big festival, and then
you met a chick, and then
that happened somewhere in there.
Yeah,
but also I had got a message from Jonah. I Killed the Prom Queen. Bleeding Through. He played a bunch of bands. Jonah messaged me. He's like, hey, there's this band popping on MySpace. Like, they're just blowing up, like young kids. And Metal Blade just picked them up, and they're going to be like top priority for 2007. He's like, they're looking for a drummer. You should go check it out. I'm like, cool. What's the name? He's like, band's called Job for a Cowboy. I was like, okay. So I go and I watch a video. They had a video for like one of the tracks off the Doom EP.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know, it's heavy. There's blast beats in it. I was like, I think this is something that I could work with. You know what I mean? And maybe take it like a bit more of a bit more brutal route. And they were babies. You know what I mean? Look at them.
Yeah, they're
children.
Yeah.
And
we're young. We're all young, dude. Jeez.
And so basically I ended up getting in touch with them and knew some people that kind of got me pushed to the front of the line, and ended up going out to Arizona and auditioning for them like right after I left.
Oh, you actually went?
Oh yeah.
Oh shit. Okay.
And I get out there and like I'm probably 24 at the time, and they're like 18.
Oh my goodness.
And they were like, you know, will you buy us beer when we go on tour? And I was just like, oh my God. Like, I was like, I don't know if I can do this. Like, and I was like, just really like kind of not like, burn out, but like, a little brokenhearted to see how the industry can be. You know what I mean?
It will fucking tear you down, dude. It sucks.
And at the time, I really wanted to do it, but I was just like, do I really want to do this? Like, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
And I went out there and I auditioned, and they gave me the job like the same day. And I hung out for a couple days, and they were like, we have like a month to write a record. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, what do you got? And they had like pieces, just little pieces. And they were just sticking stuff together. And I was like, okay. And then they were very adamant. They were like, they didn't want to do this. They didn't want to be that band. Like, they wanted to be a tech death band.
Yeah, yeah.
And I was like, I love tech death. Don't get me wrong. But those bands play for like 15 people.
Yeah.
And you guys have never really toured. When you go out, people want to see that, and they want to see a whole album of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you change too much, like, it's not going to be too good. You know what I mean? But they were sweet dudes. And
so I didn't know you actually tried out, and I didn't know you were in the band.
Well, for like a couple of days.
But you were in.
Yeah.
And I didn't know.
And I basically, my gut told me this ain't it. It's not for me. Keep in mind, my last tour with All That Remains, we were playing in Phoenix, of all places. And a couple of dudes from Black Dahlia were there. They were on their tour, had a day off, and they just came to the show.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up talking to Brian and Trevor near merch booth. And Brian was like, yeah, man, this is like, our drummer's quitting after this tour. It was that dude Pierre from Canada. And he was like, he's quitting after this tour. And I was like, well, I'm leaving after this tour too. And Brian's like, we should exchange numbers. And I was like, okay. So we exchanged numbers, but they were like just starting a tour. So they were like, had all this time. And
yeah,
that was like kind of in the back of my mind somewhere, you know, cause like I loved their first two albums.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I let the dudes know and Job that I was like, I don't think it's for me, man. Like, I think you guys have enough time. There was enough guys that were doing auditions, like making videos and putting them on YouTube.
Yeah.
And Charm was one of them. You know,
Oh, yeah.
and his audition was really good. You know, and I was like, I think you guys got enough time to find the dude. You know what I mean? And if you're in a pinch, if you want me to stay and help you work on a record, I can. And they were like, well, we told our prior drummer, you know, Elliot, like, he couldn't be on the record because he wasn't in the band. So it wouldn't be fair to have you do it. And I'm like, I get it. So so I left. That was that. And yeah, there's like a few stages where I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. You know, went back to Virginia, like just didn't know if I was done yet or not. And met the girl. Of course, somewhere somewhere around the end of like all the
waiting for it.
Yeah. And that actually took me to Michigan. It wasn't Black Dahlia.
Yeah.
That was like a coincidental, like,
that's so
good
bizarre.
thing. It was one of those like that was meant to happen, so this could happen. You know what I mean? Like,
oh my goodness.
And I dated her for probably 3 years. You know what I mean? And
that was a relationship.
Yeah. And got me up into Michigan, right in the area. And I remember when I first moved there, I texted Brian just thinking, well, I don't know anybody up here, but maybe he'll want to hang out. And Brian's like, wait, you're in Michigan? And he's like, when are you going to try out? They still didn't have a drummer. And I was like, I don't know, man. I just didn't know if I was ready to commit, you know? And I'm like, because I don't want to be like, yeah, I want to do this. And then get into a band and be like, I don't want to tour. I'm homesick or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, and Brian was like, you know, call me when you get over your tour phobia. And I was like, shit, that's brutal. Like, this dude don't even want to hang out with me. And so I got this like job at like a Guitar Center, and it didn't take too long of that before I was like, this ain't it, man. Like, I can't be done yet. I'm not done. I have the opportunity to go do this thing that like everyone wants to do and dreams of, and I did. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, suck it up and go see it through, dude.
Yeah.
So
nice. So you have, but you're like, you've been plagued with like awkward tryouts for.
Yeah, they were all weird.
for bands, but so you tried out at the Guitar Center floor on an E-kit, right? Yeah. Wow. So you have Trevor and Bart just kind of looking over your shoulder,
and Brian.
Yeah.
Just standing there watching me. There's like no music, no guitars. It's just me playing drums.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, they were like, play something.
It's like, where's my boss?
Yeah. So and my boss always knew when I was playing, because they had the E-kit hooked up to like a powered monitor, and he could just hear. In the back, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was weird. Like, I didn't even have time to warm up. Like, I just come back from lunch and they showed up. And Brian was like, "You want to play on one of these acoustic kits?" And I was like, "No, you know, that's gonna be terrible. It's gonna sound like crap. You won't hear the kicks." Like,
yeah.
So I was like, "We'll just use this." It was like a Roland TD20. It was like, you know, pretty nice kit.
Sick.
Yeah. It got me like a real audition. So that was cool.
That goes is cool.
It was enough for them to figure out whether they wanted to mess with me or not.
Yeah.
You know, because they had some young kid over there from like Germany that they were kind of trying out and not super stoked with.
Yeah.
But they were like, what do we do? You know, they had tried out a lot of people at that point and just weren't vibing. And there's a lot of good drummers that tried out that went on to play in other bands. And I'm like, man, I don't know how you didn't get it.
Like who?
Dan, who plays in Carcass now. Dan
was
he was in Aborted. He was in a bunch of bands. He tried out. He was like super young. And I think he was just really nervous because he's a sick drummer.
Yeah, he's a great drummer.
He had come over from England and tried out. Nick, what's his last name? Pierce? Unearth drummer?
Nick Pierce, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
He did what? The Faceless back in the day. And he tried out. And I don't know why he didn't get it, because he's good too. Traditional grip.
Yeah, he plays with the,
But yeah, there's a handful of people I think that tried out that didn't get the job.
Oh wow!
Somehow, I don't know what I did. I just had a good day.
they had options.
Yeah,
and you got it.
Yeah.
Well, because you always brought like a feel to it, you know. And I heard you mention that when you worked at Guitar Center, which I hear is a nightmare.
Yeah,
especially for the drum section, how you're noticing a shift in music where all kids wanted to do was just sit down and play as fast as they can, and not learn any of the basics. You know.
Yeah. It was like George from Nile and Roddy. You know what I mean? We're all over YouTube with their videos, and kids wanted to emulate it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I get it, because I also wanted to emulate
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean? But like, kids wanted to go from 0 to 100. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's nothing in between.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So a lot of the fundamentals are missing.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I guess they what they say that is like if you want to get ahead of a competition, like just learn the fundamental and basics, because that's not so basic anymore.
right.
You know, people are just like skipping this like foundation part. If you just learn the foundation, you'll actually be ahead of people.
Well, it's interesting. Metal's one of those genres where the drums are expected to be competitive.
It's true.
And it is competitive to a lot of people.
It's true.
Maybe not so much the players, but to the audience, it's like this odd competition where I think Longstreth called it. What did he call it? Like the Great BPM War or something like that.
Oh my
It's
goodness.
bands racing to be the fastest or whatever. But like,
yeah.
it's also a genre where people can overplay and just bury guitars, and they can, you know,
Yeah.
it doesn't do the song
very
any
common.
justice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you go back and you look at bands like Opeth is not a death metal band, but they have death influences in there. But that's a band that like could overplay if they wanted, because they're all such good musicians. But they
Yeah.
do what's right for the song, what's right for the part, and
Yeah.
they make good songs.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how technical it is. It matters if the listener likes it and can like ingest it. And you know,
Yeah.
are they going to bob their head? You know, are they going to remember the hook? You know what I mean?
Totally.
I've toured with some bands that were pretty technical and amazing at their instruments. And after a month, I still couldn't even remember a song.
Yeah, that's.
I could remember a part here and there that I was like, oh, that's a cool part. I remember that when they do it every night, but I couldn't remember songs. And those bands it's like music for musicians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, and I think you can have both. You can have like a death metal band that writes catchy tunes. You know what I mean? And you can have extreme music that, you know, a drummer can bury a guitar player any day.
Totally.
And that sucks. You know what I mean?
It's funny, you saw it back then, but it's actually been an issue now, where like who can play the fastest.
Oh yeah.
You know, and there's even like another issue where like drummers are, I think, kind of because you understand being a drummer. We actually talked about it right when the podcast started, where like there's like this anxiety and pressure of being a drummer, where there's like this overcritical thing going on, and now I think drummers are actually, the problem is they're actually listening to it, and they're like faking their playthroughs.
Oh yeah.
And if you're a drummer, you just know.
Yeah.
You know, like Ernie would just tell me, hey, dude, they're not playing that.
Yeah. The expectations are.
I was like, shit.
It's not real. It's not realistic. The expectations are too much, and I think it puts unnecessary stress on drummers, and I think it creates a lot of anxiety, and it can really put drummers especially drummers that tour, that people put this pressure on them to be like a robot.
Yeah.
And it can put you in like a negative headspace. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Where like it can really mess with you. You know, I've had tours like that where I was just off my game and just in my own head. And
It was mental.
Yeah, just purely mental. Because physical is hardly ever the problem. Like if you can do it once, you could do it lots. You know?
Yeah.
Maybe not every time, but you can do it. You know,
Yeah.
there are parts that you probably play that when they come up in your set, you're like, ooh, it's that tricky one where you focus a little too much probably.
Yeah, yeah.
And you might even get in your own way. And then there are parts that are maybe technically hard for other people, but you have that such confidence in your head, you don't even think about it, and you just muscle memory, go right through it.
Yeah, it's true.
It's, you know, with drummers, it's like that. When you get into that extreme stuff, you start to get into thinking about technique, and you think about balance, you think about muscle groups, and how like if you're clenching or tensing, your stick height, like how do you reserve energy so you can make it through the whole set? Now you have all these things you're thinking about. And then if you're playing to a click, you're thinking about the click. You're thinking about, am I tired tonight? Like, am I chasing the click, or am I like on fire and I'm like on top of it? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now there's just so much shit going on in your head. You're no longer the 18-year-old kid who's just having fun jamming.
Yeah, dude.
Now you're stressing yourself out. You know what I mean? And that happens like the older you get. You know, when you're a kid, you don't think about that stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so it just becomes stressful. And then the comment section is the other problem. People, kids comment on stuff, and it's like, to them, it's like this ridiculous competition. It's been going on forever. You know, it used to be the trigger argument. You know, oh, triggers are cheating. And now people have given up on that because they realize, like, if you want to play this extreme stuff and hear it, it's necessary. And totally. It's a lie detector. You've been on tours with drummers that had triggers and their feet were off and it sounded terrible.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, every little hit is heard, you know, so you really have to be on if you're going to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now it's like this, who's busier, you know? Who's what? Oh, that's boring. Maybe it's best for the song. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't mean, you know, there's a lot of really technical stuff going on in the drum world today. You know what I mean? That would have its place in a song, but if you do too much, it's just too much.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I saw you mention, like, one of, like, the hardest parts about joining the Black Dahlia murder was dealing with the criticism. Yeah.
So back then it was like Derek Roddy's forum was like the go-to place.
Oh, really?
Yeah, for like extreme drumming.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, he had a forum and like...
He had his own forum.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, dude's that good. You know what I mean? And like those records, like he was like Derek One Take Roddy because he would literally, he wanted to be a representation of him, how he actually plays. So like, this is my performance. It's not edited and cleaned up. It's not quantized and sound replaced. This is me as raw as can be. And it's sick. You know what I mean? And there's old videos of him recording stuff off of like I'm Monarch. You know what I mean? Like they're just ridiculous. Like who plays like that?
Give me one. I've seen it before. Give me one blast, dude. Just fucking one. No, we need to put. Yeah, just.
Oh, the slow mo. That's just all wrist.
Wow.
You notice he's not like doing push pull. He's not using a ton of fingers. Like he uses a lot of wrist.
What the fuck?
And you know why he does
That's
it?
crazy.
He does it that way because if you were to close your eyes, he does what sounds best to him.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not about what's easiest. It's about what sounds best. So that's how he plays. He's sick. I mean,
yeah, that does separate him from a lot of the other drummers where it's just him. I think he just plays what he wants to play as opposed. He plays what he thinks, what people want to hear. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Too many people get caught up in the competition, I think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some of my favorite death metal is stuff that really caps out at like 230. You know what I mean?
True.
Because once you get past, and I like stuff that's faster. Don't get me wrong. I love crazy over the top death metal, but like, once you get faster than 230, it's just fast. You lose heavy after a certain BPM point. You know what I mean? So like, if you listen to bands like Cannibal, they're extremely heavy. Yeah. You know, because they don't go that fast. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's brutal. Like Decapitated is like probably one of my favorite death metal bands, and they really were like a 210 to 230 kind of band. You know what I mean? And they would lock into like a groove. The drummer didn't overplay, but it would be just this groove that you could sit and bang your head to, you know, for like measures and measures. It wasn't like too many parts changing too fast. Yeah. I love that stuff, man.
You got to groove, man. You got to groove.
100%.
Yeah. So you're in the band. Are you still with that chick or no?
when I was in the band?
Yeah, right when you joined. Cool. All right. And you mentioned that you were having trouble with your you noticed that you had to build your stamina and endurance as far as your drumming, right? Yeah. How do you do that as like a drummer?
Just play.
Just play.
And honestly, this is again Roddy's advice. Like Roddy had, practice stuff, videos in his, many years ago, and those are useful. But in one of the interviews that might have been the Drumeo when he talked about building speed, and he's like, just play songs. You know what I mean? Like I warm up to like a click, and I will warm up in like steps, where I start off with something that's comfortable for me. And I'll do it for a while to loosen the muscles up, and then I'll climb up a little bit and climb up a little bit. But the real push comes from playing full songs. Yeah. So that's where like the endurance really comes from. Speed comes quick. Endurance is hard to come by.
Speed comes quick, but endurance is another thing.
Oh yeah, you can hit like your peak speed for like a bar, but can you lock in and cruise? You know what I mean? That's what takes. True. That's what takes a lot of work. And it's like when I got into Black Dahlia, it was like I was learning a full set of songs to play live, and then I was also we started writing. So I'm like really just put into it. So I just that was what it was. I played a lot of songs, rehearsing, and it took months, you know what I mean, to get to where I was like really on top and comfortable, you know. But it comes in time.
So with you playing, are you playing just past Dahlia records, or are you playing like other stuff too, like other songs? I like playing this song.
I would sometimes. Usually, I would just play Black Dahlia songs because it's like just really ironing into the muscle memory. But yeah, like Love and Decapitated, and I would always, you know, play some stuff from there.
Oh, okay.
You know,
nice.
You know, because some of the Black Dahlia stuff is not as fast. You know what I mean? And then I would want to play something that was maybe a little bit faster to kind of be comfortable with the fastest song that we had live.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Were you at this point? Are you jamming? Are you practicing every day? How long are you jamming? Like, what's the?
Well, we toured so much that like if we were home like for a month, I would probably still play 4 days a week.
4 days a week.
I got too nervous to take too much time away.
Yeah, especially.
I did not want to struggle when we got back out on tour. You know, I wanted to just feel comfortable. You know, so every now and then, if we had a bigger break, you know what I mean, I would maybe take like a week off and then come back and start hitting it. But
nice.
Yeah, it was usually probably 4 days a week.
How long did those days last?
Oh, like the practice sessions?
Yeah.
It depends. Sometimes I'd get in and out of there in 45 minutes.
Nice.
You know, sometimes it'd be an hour. You know, it depends on what I was trying to do.
Sure.
You know, if I was working on songs for like a new record, I would kind of go in and just kind of, it depends on where I was in that process. So if I had like only one song under my belt, I would go back and run through that one, and then I would start working on the new song in sections, and then I would just do like kind of a free form, just play.
Nice.
You know, and some I would, you know, crank up the click and push myself a little bit, and
nice.
Just trying to stay on top of it.
Yeah. Get the click going. You push yourself like a little bit. You know, keep that.
There are some guys that will practice like all day. You know, I mean, they'll practice and then they'll leave and they'll come back and practice later. And to me, like the human body can only do but so much. Like you go to the gym, you know, you're only going to work out for X amount of time. After that, your body's shot. You're not, you know.
Yeah. You
got to take a break. And
it is true. I have noticed like practicing, especially with like click and songs, like full songs, like a few days a week for, you know, at least an hour a day. Like after a few months, you're a different player.
Yeah.
I was just like put on a click and learning like battery, master of puppets, and like click, and it's down picking and it's speed picking. You know, it's like after a few months of that, during like 3 to 4 days a week, I was a completely different player.
Oh, yeah.
I was, oh shit, this is, if you just stay, you know, consistent, there was a big change.
Oh, definitely.
You know, and the drummer thing is so different because it's like you can't. I was always wondering how do drummers practice, because you can't, like, I don't think you could practice all day because you're physically, your body can't really do it.
Right.
Huh.
Yeah.
Where like if you're a guitar player or a bass player, we could just sit on our ass, and you know, it's not really.
And I honestly, like, practicing was forced a lot of the times. You know, like I was like, I gotta go do it.
No, practice is always forced. I don't want to fucking practice.
You know,
Are you kidding me?
I'd have to go get super sweaty and gross, and then, you know,
nobody wants to practice.
Exhausted, but
it's like it's practice. Oh, dude, you're fucking shredding. Dude.
I'm on the toilet. That was my first ad, actually.
Oh fuck.
I just joined All That Remains and HQ practice pads. Yeah. Jeremy Saffer. I don't know if you're.
Of course, yeah.
I was living with Jeremy for a little while.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
And this is like in his dad's place in the bathroom.
That's sick, dude. That's
some
sick.
like drum magazine. Actually, I think it won an ad campaign, which is.
You know what?
Imagine sending that to your mom. You know what I mean? Like,
I made a mom.
Yeah, I'm in Drum Magazine on the toilet.
I might leave that one out. I don't know. I'm not sure.
Look, somebody's trying to sell it. $10.
I'll buy it right now, dude. Too.
Ain't worth it, dude.
I'll buy both of them.
I have the magazine somewhere that it's in.
Dude, practice is like it's like eating a salad. No one wants to do that.
Yeah.
You don't want to go to the gym, But
Yeah.
but who wants to practice?
Yeah.
You want to play,
Right.
but you don't want to practice.
Yeah, and especially with this kind of stuff, I learned over time, like, you have to be good about warming up. You can't just sit down and play cold.
Mm.
You know what I mean? Your body's not ready, and you're going to put yourself in a headspace that's not conducive for a good practice. Like, you know what I mean? If you warm up and you take your time, and then you sit down and play songs, you're going to play better, and you're going to want to play because you're playing better.
Yeah.
You know, you're not going to feel like you're struggling.
Yeah. I guess that's also my last question about like technique stuff. Like, 'cause I see a lot of drummers do it differently, especially out on the road. Because again, like your physical body can only take so much. You're already going to do it for like an hour maybe. So that's a lot of drumming a day. But you can't just go cold and sit and then go cold to show how, like, what's a good warm up for a show? So I could selfishly tell Ernie.
I don't know. That dude's great live, so he's doing something right. I basically did a lot of stretches.
Okay.
That just whatever felt good for me, right? It wasn't like something that was an official like physical therapist was like, you should do this. I just kind of did what stretched certain muscles in my legs and even into my feet, you know, just stretching anything and doing a bunch of weird stretches. And then for hands, it's just getting them going. You know what I mean? Hit a practice pad. I didn't have like any specific warm up or anything. There were times where if we were working on new stuff or whatever, or playing songs live, like, you know, I would take the practice pads for the kick pedals and we would sit there. They had their little micro cubes, you know, like backstage. We kind of go through a song on those pads and stuff, which is cool. Yeah. But then later down the road, it was just like everyone's just warming up on their own. Yeah. You know, do a bunch of stretches. Now, going cold after you play, this is something I didn't learn until later down the road, because when you're in your 20s, it doesn't bother you. You're pretty resilient. You can bounce back from most stuff. But now, if I practice and I don't stretch afterwards, dude, my hips will be all jacked up.
Dang.
Yeah.
Dude.
Like, it's hard. It's much harder on the body these days. You know what I mean? I got to do a lot of stretches, and I have to do a lot of hip stretches to maintain mobility there. Yeah. You know, and everybody plays different. So one person might, you know, use a bit more hip flexors than the next person. But
yeah. Yeah, we've been talking because, we're like, you know, we're pretty close in age, you know, late 30s, early 40s. We're talking to you. We got to stretch after the show, too. Yeah. And we're trying to get disciplined and do it. It's just hard after, like, you know, we just did 5 shots of tequila and we fucking headbang for an hour.
Right.
But man, we're talking like we know like the science of it. We need to stretch after the show. Yeah. Because then you wake up kind of fucked.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, playing in a band is hard on the body. I don't think people realize that, but like,
especially metal.
Oh yeah. I mean, even going out and like, you guys are very like active on stage. Like, you're all over the place. It's full body for you. You're not just standing there bobbing your head. Like, it's full body. Like, it's hard on people. It's hard on the body. And
yeah,
like,
it is.
You see a lot of these guys that are much older than us that are still out playing shows, and like, you know, they have braces and you know what I mean? Like, their bodies are jacked, man.
I need a neck brace to be sick. That'd be sick. The logo on the fucking front of it to be sick. I can fucking sell them too.
Yeah, see, look at that. That's your whole body.
I'm 39, dude. I'm fucking 39, dude.
Like, and not just because we're here. You have one of my favorite like stage presence for like a guitar player.
Oh, Shannon, thank you, man.
Dude,
appreciate that.
All right, so there's a lot of guys in metal that have like motions that they make on stage that almost looks like rehearsed. You know what I mean?
Oh,
like,
yeah.
And it's a lot of borrowed stuff. They see one guy do it and then they do it and whatever. Yeah. But then, and you see some people that have a stage presence where there's like integrity to it. Like, you know, every note they're hitting is like, they're feeling it. You know what I mean? Yeah, and man. It's not a rehearsed thing. It's just how it moves you. And you can tell the difference. And I love that. Like, cause that moves me. It gets me pumped, you know?
Totally. I always tell people that Suicide Silence is the best and worst band in metal. Because if we're on it, it's like, it's on it. But if we're off, it's terrible. We're an energy-based band. Like, we know we're not all like feeling, like we're not all like a unit.
All right.
Dude, like we've done full tours. Like we went to Europe with Lionheart and Kublai Khan. That tour sucked ass. Something was just off.
Right.
And we couldn't find that connecting. But it's funny because we're doing like the same thing. Uh-huh. but the people can notice too.
Really?
And it's like this. I can't put it into words. I can't.
Right. Well, and all bands I think
can't.
go through that, right? All bands go through those phases
weird.
where like there's like a year or a few months or whatever where like it's like they're going through the motions.
Yeah.
Where maybe it's just things going on in people's personal lives.
Sure.
You
Oh,
know,
sure.
they bleed into. There's no way you can't,
It's
right?
true. It's true, man.
And you know, but usually they'll come out of it and find their way, and you know,
yeah.
It's like that they, you know, the love for doing it. You know, they find it again, and
It comes back.
yeah,
It comes back.
yeah. But and it's a tiring thing to be in a touring band, and it, you know, you're expected to. There's a lot of expectations out of you.
There is, man.
You know what I mean?
There
Everyone
is.
expects you to be 100% like everything every night, and it's like, man, some people just. We all have just shit days. You know what I mean? There's going to be days where like
days it's just not there.
no,
man.
there's going to be
It's
days
not
where you're like,
fucking
I
there.
just want to set this guitar on fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There was whole tours for me where I just was like, I don't want to play drums anymore. Like I hate this shit.
It
Like,
just sucks.
you know what I mean? And it sucks. It makes you feel bad. At least it did for me. I
Yeah.
felt bad those times of my life because I felt like, man, I'm in this like such a unique
Dream.
opportunity,
Yeah.
living the dream. There's tons of people would like, you know, give their left nut to be here doing this. You know what I mean? And I'm over
Yeah.
here like, I fucking hate it. I hate playing drums. You know, it makes you feel shitty, but at the same time, it's not easy.
That's true, man.
You know what I mean? And
sucks.
you go through different phases of your life where like you're on it or you're off of it. And I have so many fond memories of tours where like that whole tour I felt on it. And
Yeah.
like I
Well,
wanted
full
nothing.
tours, yeah.
You
Yeah,
want
full
nothing
tours.
more to be there because you're on top of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's the tours where like you're just not, for whatever reason, something going on in your life and you're not
Yeah.
playing your best.
Mm-hmm.
Those are like miserable times if you think back, you know, to those memories.
Yeah, man, it sucks, dude. It sucks. I know. Well, Shannon, I know a lot of people want to hear from you, so we have to hit it. How was so the first record you worked on with Dahlia was Nocturnal.
Yep.
You know, how was that process with you?
I was fresh in the band and I was learning, trying to get tight with all their prior material because we had to play some shows,
Mm-hmm.
and we were writing at the same time. And this was fortunately that newer experience where somebody could come to practice and say, "Here's a song."
Mm.
You know, it would be like guitars and some really rough, you know, programmed drums.
Oh yeah.
You know,
yeah.
and I would take it and try to like make it reality. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Because some of the stuff you listen to and you're like, if I had 4 arms, I could play this. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
like, this isn't feasible. So you try to like stick with the skeleton of the song because as a guitar player, when you write songs, you can feel like a roller coaster. You feel like this part is going to be, it's the thrash part here. This part here, halftime, heavy, whatever. Or this part, I'm hearing a blast beat underneath of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you have a vision for the song you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
A drummer could come in and do something completely opposite, and all of a sudden you're like, I'm not feeling it. So I would always try to like listen to what they would program and say, all right, here's what I know that they're hearing,
Mm-hmm.
and here's how I can take this and make it mine. You know, or if there's just something sick, like they just clicked on a bunch of crap and made a fill that was cool, I'm like, keep it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why change it if it's good?
Yeah. Yeah.
So there was a lot of stuff in there that was programmed that I kept, and then there was some stuff that we kind of hashed out in practice, which that changed down the road. You know, your writing style with a band changes a
Sure.
little bit as time moves on. But yeah, it was really neat. It was kind of like it happened fast when I look back on it.
It always happens fast.
Yeah,
man.
the album thing was fast, and I think for them it was like the feeling and vibe of that album was like a rebirth almost, because they were really worried about, is this the end of the band? Because they had a really
wow.
hard time finding the right drummer. It wasn't like just any drummer will do. It was like, we want to pick the right drummer that we think is the right guy for the job.
Mm.
And it was like months of this, to the point where they were like, in dark times, like, is this the end?
Oh,
You know, and so all of a sudden it was like that rejuvenation. The band felt like we're back. You know what I mean? And,
that's
and
cool.
like the material to me felt like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But it's another one of those like perfect storm kind of things.
Perfect
You know what I
storm.
mean? Like it was just the right time. That point in metal, like people wanted to hear blasts and they wanted to hear solos. Like solos were cool at the time. You know, and it changes.
Yeah.
It changes. People liked solos, and then a couple years later, it was like, we only want to hear breakdowns. Cut this solo nonsense out, man. Like
Yeah.
I don't care about the wizard shit no more.
Yeah,
You know,
it changes.
and then they come back and they leave and whatever. But yeah, man, it was fast. And I was just pumped.
Where'd you track the drums at?
So we actually did we recorded the whole record in Jersey. I'm trying to remember the name of the studio.
Yeah, because
Trax East, maybe.
I think that's their best sounding drums. It's interesting. It's just something I heard you talk about them. You know, as like a fan, sometimes like you hear the artist talk about their experience. You're like, but to me, that's the sickest. You know,
appreciate it.
Yeah.
The drums, that was all done in Jersey. The studio was cool, but that they had done the Eric, yeah. So that guy Eric, who Eric Rachel, he his studio, he had done the first Skid Row record.
Sick.
Oh yeah, so he had the plaque in there and everything.
Nice.
It was rad.
Yeah, that's sick.
And it was cool. That was like the first time or the only time that we had spent in a studio where like the entire band was there the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like we literally went up there and the entire band stayed in one hotel room for a month, brother.
Let's go.
Dude, it was like everybody sharing beds and John Kay was on a cot. Like we were in the studio every single day as a full band. After that, it was like, I'm going to get my parts done and I'm going to fuck off and I'll see you guys when the record's done, you know? Like,
fuck.
But it was a cool experience being there for the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then we recorded it up there and then Mark Lewis and Jason Sukoff, you know, finished the rest down in Florida at Audio Hammer. So they mixed and did all the tone stuff. And it was so funny because, like, those drums, at the time, they were sound replacing a lot of stuff still.
Okay.
You know, so we weren't going to, like, quantize or anything like that. But, like, initially, Jason wanted to sound replace the toms with, like, bigger toms. Okay. And I was like, no. And I was like, that's not me. It doesn't sound like me. It doesn't sound like my drums. Absolutely not. I had to put my foot down. You know what I mean? And so that like kind of started that motion of like, we're going to do things as organic as we can.
Yeah. Okay. So did you sound replace those drums?
No, we blended some of the snare.
Okay.
But, you know, and obviously kick trigger.
Of course.
But what you hear is what you hear. And then the records I did with them after that were even more, you know, organic.
Oh, okay. So you don't really like the sound of those drums.
I like them. No, I like them. I
don't love them.
I think
you don't get horned up by them.
No, they don't bother me at all. I think Ritual had my favorite sound for the drums. I think. But
yeah, they're all sick. I guess it was just like a perfect storm. It was also like the guitar tone too. It's kind of like the way those two things kind of mesh. It was like, oh,
I like the guitar tone in that record a lot.
It was fucking sick. Do you remember what they did?
I don't. I know they were reamping a bunch of stuff, but I don't.
Fuck yeah.
And I knew far less about like tone and amps back then. I knew nothing about that stuff.
Yeah, because I know you're a guitar player, so I'm sure you're those days like geeking out. You know,
like at the time, I was so focused on drums in my life that guitar just was an afterthought.
Yeah,
I didn't even play for a long time. It just wasn't even a thing, and I regret that because. Man, I could have probably taken some really good guitar lessons.
Sure.
You know, like sit down with Ryan Knight and teach me all day to day, you know. But
yeah. Yeah, but it's a phenomenal record, man.
Thank you.
It's cool.
Thank you.
Dude, how was it for you? So you work at this Guitar Center, and then how long was it to where you joined the band, and then you came back? Is it the same Guitar Center that you came back to and did that clinic?
Yeah.
The same one?
Yeah.
What was that span?
Let's see. It's probably almost a year and a half to 2 years. 2 years.
2 years. So
yeah.
1 year you're working. 2 years later, you come back with Brian and
do a clinic.
Yeah. That must be a kind of like a mind fuck.
It was interesting. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I still knew some cats that worked there at the time. You know what I mean? So they
random. That's crazy.
Said, yeah. And it was like, it almost didn't happen. It was like a last minute thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like snow and ice on the road. And, you know, it was wild. We had just acquired Ryan Knight, actually. He had just joined the band. We were gearing to go off on the tour with him.
Nice.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, we're watching it now. It's just a nice crowd. Seems Brian brought his half stack.
Yeah, I didn't. He was using something.
Yes,
there.
He was.
But basically, I didn't have like tracks to play along to. I just had my click, and I was like, don't want to just to be drums. That's weird.
Yeah.
So he agreed to like play guitar, and which I think he begrudgingly did. I think it made him actually kind of nervous.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know,
out of your comfort zone, man. You got to do it. we got to do it, man.
We just kind of winged it, you know. Did 2 songs, and then we just I kind of talked about like,
hey, I tried out for the band like in the room
the
over
back
here.
room.
What the fuck?
Yeah,
That's cool, man.
Yeah, it was neat. You know, I honestly I wasn't gonna do a clinic because I was like, I don't think I'm a clinic drummer. What the hell do I have to say that people want to listen to? And we were over playing some festival in Europe, and it was Sean from Cynic who actually talked me into doing it.
What did he tell you?
He just said, man, he's like, because I said, I don't think I do anything that anybody's going to want to hear, or, you know, who the hell am I, right? I'm just some dude who plays blast beats at different speeds. Like those guys in my mind are like, you know, scientists when it comes to drums. You know, they do stuff that's just ridiculous. And he's like, dude, it's not about that. He's like, people want to hear what you think about when you play, or like how you do it, your approach. And he was like, it's valuable. He's like, talk about stuff that, you know, you might not know unless you tour, like useful things, you know, like, and I don't even remember at this point what I talked about, but yeah, what a kind human being and what a phenomenal drummer.
That's awesome, man. You don't know who you're going to connect to. Every person has their own little perspective difference. You know, I noticed that like every band is like, there's something you could even be talking about the same thing, but they'll have another twist on it.
Yeah.
You know,
yep.
I'm always like, you know, what am I going to say with this band? And each band is different. They're all a little bit different. Like, no, that's never ends.
Yeah.
You know, or one person could read a book that another person can read the same book and get a whole other.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
You know, I learned that one time with I think me and Eddie were reading like the same book at one time. I read it. I was like, I told her my perspective. He told me his. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Your takeaway is completely different.
We didn't read the same book.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, with musicians, we're all on this journey, you know what I mean? And what we get out of it can be completely different.
I know, man.
And approach to songwriting and all that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's cool listening to people and their approach.
Dude, how was it for you being in the band with Trevor?
Trevor was also my roommate for a good chunk of the time when I was in the band. We connected on a lot of things. Like everybody in the band liked death metal, but when we were on tour or even at home, we both listened to, you know, the most obscure grind, or like just, you know, toilet death metal. You know what I mean? Like the shit that 10 people listen to. You know what I mean? Like we would vibe on that shit.
That's
like
cool.
He was such a sweetheart. You know what I mean? Like I'd go over to his room. We had this like 2-bedroom duplex. You know, at one point, both of us found that we were kind of single, not living with, or if dating, not living with the person, you know. So it was like, hey, we should just get a place together. You know, so I lived for about a month. I lived in his mom's house with him.
Nice.
And then we came back from tour and we went and found this little duplex and we moved in there. So I was with him 24/7 on tour and then 24/7 at home. But when we were home, a lot of the times he would just be in his room with the door shut, and he was quiet. Like there were days where I was like, "Is he all right in there?" You know, like haven't heard a peep out of this guy.
Yeah.
You know, and he was probably in there like headphones on in his underwear, like listening to death metal, high, and he'd fall asleep and he'd wake up, rinse, repeat. Yeah. You know, and occasionally I'd catch him in the kitchen like with the cereal box, you know, tipped up to his mouth.
Attaboy.
Yeah. You know, it scared the shit out of him because he didn't see me coming. But yeah, he was fun and just loved to have fun. You know what I mean? Like we connected on like retro video games and old horror movies and, you know, like, yeah, he was awesome. And very like, generous. Like we had a tour. Actually, it was when we went to South America with you guys and Cannibal. Like right before the tour, I had my vehicle broken into. And they stole like my luggage and everything. So I had like, I had no fucking clothes.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
My laptop, like everything, they stole a bunch of shit out of there.
Oh, that sucks.
And I had just driven back up to Michigan to start rehearsing, you know, for a few days before the tour. And I'm like, I don't need clothes. And so like I'm like, people are like giving me stuff, you know, like here's some pants, like, You know, I can wear a pair of pants for an eternity, but like, you know, Trevor gave me some of his like cool death metal shirts that didn't fit him anymore. You know what I mean? That dude was like, he was a collector.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for him to part ways with old death metal shirts was like a big deal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I still have like a old Mayhem shirt that he gave me. But yeah, man, he was one of my favorite lyricists, not just because I was in the band, but like he was brilliant. He was a wordsmith. Super intelligent. I used to ask him, you know, what are you going to do one day? Like, what do you think you would do if we don't do this anymore? You know, like when we're old farts and we can't get out there and move around. And I think at the time, he thought he maybe would write books. Like he'd be a writer, you know, because he was like an English major. And
was he?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Like, yeah. And I think he would have been so brilliant at writing like horror novels.
That would have been sick.
Yeah. He'd have been so good at it. But yeah, like fun on tour. You know what I mean? I mean, I think he really felt like he was in his element when he was on stage. And when we would play these like Brutal Assault or any of those like crazy festivals over in Europe that are like just the gnarliest of the gnarly bands, you know, like he loved it. That was like his people. You know what I mean? There are people that liked the same shit that he liked. And you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, like, we're probably a little weird in comparison to like your normal everyday Joe, especially if you're into like crazy death metal like that. You know what I mean? And that was like people that were like him. You know what I mean? And he was like such an encyclopedia of metal. That dude knew. Yeah. He knew like years and labels and like songs and members. Like he just retained that stuff. Like every day he'd have like CDs showing up at the house every day in the mail. He had a collector. I mean, and it was like short prints of like a CD that a small tiny band put out, you know, that probably only made 100 of them or something, you know, like, wow. And he loved that shit, you know. Man, what a connoisseur. Loved it. Like what a connoisseur, you know.
Lived it too.
Yeah. I'd walk over to his room with my iPod. This was like the iPod era. We would go on tour and you want to load up something new to listen to. And I'd be like, man, hook me up with some music, man. Cause I knew he just always had like new shit. And I'm like, not too much, because I'll never get through it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it'd be like 12 gigs of music. I'm like, I can't get through this.
Yeah.
You know, but he was just so excited about it. You know, he loved to share music, you know, and that enthusiasm. So, like, in the van, you know, we toured in the van. Yeah. If I was driving, I knew there were certain songs if I put on, and I could look in the rear view, and I'd see him back there, like, you know, like old Morbid Angel and stuff, you know, that, like, I knew he dug, you know. Yeah. So, yeah. He was a blast.
He's a great guy, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fucking sad what happened, dude.
Yes.
It's really sad. What's kind of weird about that moment when Trevor passed was I don't know. It might sound weird, but literally like a week before he passed, and I had a weird feeling about him. Yeah. Weird.
He had done some interviews where he was a little bit open about how he was feeling. And, you know, I think from the outside looking in, it looked like he was doing things to try to, you know, help himself. Yeah. You know what I mean? From even the people in the camp, you know, I think everyone kind of assumed like, okay, I mean, he's trying, he's you know, doing things to like, you know, try to find his way. Yeah. You know, and that wasn't a thing when him and I lived together. Like, he just had some anxiety. You know what I mean? And there was nothing that, you know, getting high couldn't solve, right? So like, there's a little weed and you're good to go, you know? But like at some point that doesn't do it anymore. You know what I mean? And as we get old, things change. You know what I mean? And him and I hadn't really talked in quite a while, which is a shame, you know, but you know how it is when you're in a band with people and like you see them all the time. And then when you're not with them or you're not on tour with people, like everyone's busy and you just don't talk. And it's not because of any given reason. Yeah. You know what I mean? Everyone's just doing their own thing. You know what I mean? And so we hadn't talked in years. You know what I mean? I missed him. You know what I mean? But it was what it was. You know, he was living his life and doing his thing. I think in the beginning when I left, he took it hard. You know what I mean? It was almost like I got the vibe he felt like I abandoned him or something. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I went about it the best way that I could. I give him plenty of notice. I stuck around, did some tours after I let him know I was leaving just because you got to give him plenty of time. You know what I mean? Yeah. Helped him pick a drummer. You know what I mean? Gave him a drum kit. Alan still uses that damn thing. Yeah, there was a period of time where he just didn't. I don't think he had anything to say. And it's not that I did him wrong. I think it was just like when people go through a breakup, sometimes it's easier to be angry with a person than sad that they're not around. You know what I mean? People will find a reason just to be angry. You know what I mean? Because it's easier to cope with that, I think.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And even Brian went through a phase where like he didn't have much to say to me, and it was not a good reason. It was heartbreaking for me. You know what I mean? But eventually that went away, and you know, we talk and it's all good. We all love each other.
Yeah. Time passes.
Yeah.
Dude, I've done that like just even just like get out of bed or like or just I don't know, go to gym, something. I'll like make up stories in my head, just whatever helps you.
Yeah.
You know, I learned.
Yeah.
You know,
so I didn't hold it against anybody. You know what I mean? Like even Ryan, you know, Ryan Knight, he was never shitty towards me or anything. You know, Ryan and I would occasionally text or whatever. But I think he was bummed too. You know, it felt like big things were changing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
like
sad, man.
Big things were changing because it was like Ryan or Bart, you know, and then me in like a year span. You know what I mean? So it was like the whole rhythm section had changed. You know what I mean? And the dynamic was going to change.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think they've gone on to write brilliant records. I think it's great what they're doing. You know what I mean? But it was just at a time in my life where I was like, I have to leave. My headspace is like, it's no bueno, you know what I mean? And I need a change in my life. You know what I mean? And I don't think living out of a suitcase forever is for me. You know what I mean? I think I have to figure out what the next chapters of my life look like. Metal and drums are always going to be in it, and they're always going to be very, you know, a important part of my life.
Yeah.
But, you know, at some point it's like, I want to own a house and, you know, I have a retirement or something and figure out, you know, I want to figure out what I'm going to do forever. You know what I mean? I want to be home and be around some family and, you know, all the things that you really miss from being like a full-time musician.
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, it just was the time, you know, whether they liked it or not.
It was just time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was, you know, for me, no hard feelings. I love those guys. And, you know, very proud of everything that we did, and
it's cool.
You know, they're some of the best times of my life. You know what I mean?
But you got the memories, man.
I was like, man, I can't picture myself at like 50 years old back there trying to like, you know, play these songs like, at least not an hour and some change worth of death metal. You know what I mean? Not every night, like, so
you guys part ways, and then what? You moved back to Virginia?
Yeah. Well, I was actually already in Virginia. But I ended up back in Richmond.
Okay.
I was still married at the time, and my ex-wife was a tattooer. She was getting a visa to come over and live in the Tattoo City. So it was like perfect for her to live in Richmond.
Is it really?
Oh yeah, it's one of the most heavily tattooed cities in the U.S.
Really?
Yeah, it's crazy.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, crap.
There's a ton of shops there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So like that was a good spot for her, and I was just trying to figure out what the hell I'm going to do.
It's like, what am I going to do?
Yeah, so I don't know what life looks like after this, you know. I had some side project stuff going on. Like, I left BDM in 2012, and by 2013, I think I recorded 3 albums that year.
Yeah, you recorded like some records, right?
Yeah, so I was still kind of trying to stay on top of things, but it was just a weird time, man. Weird time in my life. Yeah, I did. I did the Battlecross album in 2013, and
which one again? I'm sorry.
Battlecross.
Yeah, which records?
War of Will.
War of Will. Okay, so
yep.
For people listening and watching,
I did that album. It was like and that was a last minute thing. You know, like I was friends with them. They're from Michigan as well, and they were out touring and had an issue with the drummer and parted ways last minute, and they were scheduled to go in and record with Mark Lewis. And I got hit up and they were like, "Hey man, would you be willing to come in and like record an album for us?" And I was like, "Sure, when?" And they're like, "In 2 weeks." And I was like, "Okay." Oh. So, you know, send me everything you got, right? And then go in there and just try to figure it out on the spot. Hell? You know what I mean? And so I was writing drums on the spot and
oh my,
helping with some structure and stuff like song structure or whatever. And And then it was
Wow.
I had another project that same year, Asphalt Graves, which is if you go all the way back to the War Torn era, that's the guitar player from War Torn, Adam. So we wanted to do another grind band together, and this was like years in the making. It's the guy
Hard.
standing right next to me in the middle. That's Adam, and so he wrote the whole record, bro. And we talked about what we wanted, and we even picked a couple covers, and then the problem was who's going to be in it. So it changed over time. Initially, Shane from Napalm Death was going to play bass on it. And because we actually, BDM was over in Europe, and we crashed at Shane's house, and I played him a track, and he was like, yeah, I want to do it. I was like, sick. I was like,
sick.
Shane from Napalm Death on this record. How cool is that? And vocals, Trevor's actually going to do it initially.
Oh, wow.
And then once the departure, we just weren't really talking, so he wasn't down, and that's fine. Mm-hmm. So we ended up getting Jason from Misery Index, who really kind of, I think, fit the project best with his approach with the vocals, and what he envisioned. So yeah, it ended up being a cool project. But did that one, and then there was the Serpentine Dominion thing with Adam D and Corpse Grinder.
It's heavy, dude.
It was a cool album. Recorded all three of those in 2013, and
that's a busy year.
yeah. And then it was like silence after that. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It was like not a lot. Well, I filled in for Battlecross for like a good 6 months. Marriage didn't work out, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I just want to escape, so I ran away. From my problems, and went out on the road for like 5 or 6 months, and then eventually it was like,
catches up to you.
I was like, no, I got to deal with my problems. You know what I mean? So I still got to figure out what I'm doing for the rest of my life.
It's called growing up. Dude, I gotta process these feelings.
You have to.
Thoughts.
The only way you deal with it is to go through it. You know what I mean?
That's it.
So,
that's just go through it. That's it.
So
that's it, man. Yeah, and so you went through a period in your life where you didn't really want to deal with metal, and then you talk about what ignited your passion and love again was actually black metal.
Yes.
Dark Throne, to be more specific, right?
Yeah. I really appreciate their approach to their craft and their music, and it's pretty much a I don't give a fuck approach. They do it for them and not for anybody else. And that's truthfully, that's how art should be.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Because once you get into the industry and you're doing it for a job, you have to kind of cater a bit to A, your fan base, B, what's happening. Like you can't just do anything you want, right?
Yeah.
Your band might just tank next week, right? So
I know, man.
And that's the game. That's the game you play. But I mean, if you get to do it for a living, that's also super sweet.
Yeah.
But I just got to that point where I just wasn't inspired by a lot, and I didn't even really care about playing a whole lot. There were like some years in there where I was focusing on a new career where I didn't even really play drums.
Wow.
Like a whole year where I just didn't even play.
Jeez,
you know what I mean?
Man.
And that's frustrating because when you go back and you sit down the kit, you want to be able to do some of the stuff you used to be able to do. And I was like, nope, I can't do any of that, So I would get frustrated and be like, oh, fuck it, I don't care,
Yeah.
But yeah, I was like just vibing on a bunch of black metal, and like Dark Throne, they put out like damn near an album every year. You know what I mean? It's not every year on the money, but like they put out a lot of records, and it's what they want to do.
Yeah, so it's you that taught me that, where I didn't know they put out so much music, and also they refused to play shows.
Yep, 96 I think was the last time they played a show, and they've been offered a lot of money, and they're just like, no. Yeah, they're like, no, that's not why we're doing it.
Do you know? I mean, I assume you went down like a rabbit hole. I mean, have they talked about it? Like why?
A little bit in interviews. It's just not what they're about. It's really like their experience and what they want to do, and they don't care about the fame and notoriety. They don't care about money. You know what I mean? Like they've detached themselves a bit from, I think, what black metal was in the early 90s, which there were, to me, there's a lot of similarities with old punk in black metal.
Yeah.
There's the anti-everything approach. There's the raw, natural. We're just it's a lot of aggression, and it's very, very raw, and it's not about this perfection in this studio polishing quality. You know what I mean? And there's a message and a feeling.
Yeah.
And then there's anger. You know what I mean? And much like punk rock. Wow. You have something that's supposed to have no rules, and eventually it develops rules.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's like with punk rock. Like now there's, I don't know about now, but like you saw it go from like this anything, right? We can sound like anything, and we don't have to be great musicians, and we can dress however we want to dress. There's no dress code because they were very anti that kind of thing, right? Yeah. The conformity.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, and then fast forward down the road, and then it's like now there's a dress attire. You know what I mean? There's like, how old is your leather jacket? You know what I mean? Is your like Amoebix patch original, or is it like new? You know what I mean? Like stupid shit, like where it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, true.
You know, people get way too caught up in that, and it's one of the most gatekeepy genres ever. You know what I mean? Like, and I don't really care. Like, people have their opinions, and that's fine. You know what I mean? That kind of approach though gave me that like feeling of, you know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what people think. You know what I mean? What matters is how it makes you feel.
Yeah.
What if you want to record some songs that are not polished, that are just power chord ripping with blast beats and, you know, low production, and you just want to put out stuff and put it out? It makes you feel good. Like, that to me was like that exciting feeling that you got when you were like in your early teens playing guitar. You know what I mean? You just want to jam.
You just want to rock.
You know
what
I mean? Dude. And it was just a lot of other black metal stuff that I was listening to that I just really dug, and I just felt inspired. You know what I mean? And it was like, I want to make music again, you know? And so I bought like a nice Roland kit because I'm like, this would give me the ability to practice more. I mean, I could play my drums at home too, but this would give me the practice, and I could actually maybe record these drums pretty easily. You know what I mean? And maybe I'll grab like a cheap guitar and just write some black metal or something. That was like also the thing that ignited the guitar coming back into the forefront of my life. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because all of a sudden it was like wanting to go back and relearn and learn stuff I didn't know when I was a kid. And
riffs and tones.
Oh, yeah.
You know, amps.
But yeah, the whole black metal universe is really interesting. And I like the conversation you had with, what's his name? Kyle from Vitriol.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He said it really well. Like his explanation of like black metal and like the production or lack thereof. Oh yeah. And why, you know, and the vibe and the attitude behind it. I think he said it really well. You know what I mean? You know, it was all intentional to make you feel something. You know what I mean?
It was intentional.
Yeah. Like the feeling in the space where they were at in the world, you know, like cold as shit. You know what I mean? And something that sounds, you know, back then in early 90s was like they wanted that tone, not even a tone. They just wanted a sound that sounded like cold and dead, I guess.
It explains a lot because I came into like the black metal. What made me do research on black metal was Kyle. Because, you know, when you're outside, you're just like, oh, like it sounds like shit. Sure. You know, I mean, just put it very bluntly. And then he would talk about those recordings. I was like, oh, okay, maybe kind of switch my perspective. And then I met the Lord from Dark Bruno, so I did more research.
I watched that too.
did more research on black metal. I'm like, oh shit, this is crazy. And now you're kind of solidifying it. I was like, oh wow, there's just something. There's a lot more to those recordings than I even knew or thought. You know, I didn't think, oh yeah, it's where they're from. It's their intention is they wanted people to know like where they were and where they felt. It's cold and fucking dead.
There's a vibe to it, you know. There's 100% a vibe when you listen to those records from that era. And I get it. I understand the production side of things and why people might not like it. And, you know, then you fast forward, there were bands that were out there doing black metal albums with better production. And of course they caught shit for it. Yeah. But it doesn't matter because it still sounds sick. You know, like sick, Immortal caught a bunch of flack, you know, when they started to put out stuff that had a better production to it. But it didn't matter because it was sick. You know, Mayhem, even Mayhem caught flack. You know, when they put out that album Chimera, it was it had just had a better production than the prior albums. And it's one of my favorites.
Sounds too good.
Yeah, people were pissed about it, and it was like, are you kidding me? This album is gnarly.
When this try to get some info on this.
Was it 03, 05, somewhere around there?
Jay just press the wiki. There you go.
04.
04, really?
Yeah.
Oh crap.
I thought it sounded ridiculous, and so they had the singer change after this album.
Nice.
And Attila came back. Attila did their first, well, you could arguably call it their first release. But anyways, he came back and he's been with them ever since.
Yeah.
But the album, Order at Cow, they did this, if I'm pronouncing it correct, I'm probably butchering it, but they did this album, 2007. Terrible production. On purpose.
On purpose.
Yeah, like, I like it. I like it because it sounds like they were just recorded in a bedroom. And it's sick.
Wow.
It's very organic, and there's nothing fancy about it, but it's cool.
Wow.
And it was basically like kind of like to me, I saw it as like a middle finger, kind of like, fuck you. We can still do this. We're still the same band. Like, look, here's not a not overly produced album.
That's
we're still ripping. You know what I mean? I don't know. Mayhem's one of my favorite bands. So, but
is this it?
Yeah.
This song is 9 minutes long. Okay, sounds good.
I like it.
It sounds good.
I mean, if you compare it to like the prior album, obviously the production sounds a lot different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But, I love that album. But there's a vibe. Cool. There's a vibe to all that stuff. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of sincerity in that genre that you don't get in other genres. Like, obviously, there's black metal bands that are, it's an act. You know what I mean? It's a costume. It's for the extremity, much like death metal, right? Like, and that's fine too. Like, Cannibal Corpse, like, they're not out, killing people and doing the crazy stuff that's in the lyrics. It's extreme lyrics for extreme music. That's how death metal is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
And black metal, I think there's a lot more, for some of the bands, there's a lot more integrity to it because there's something in there that's their life, and they take it very serious.
Yeah, I learned that. So, man, that's like who you are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like as you said, it's not a costume.
Yeah, it's a way of life cool. for some of these folks. You know what I mean? A newfound respect for it. Yeah. I mean, I get how it's not for everybody. I mean, same for death metal, but.
But hey, I mean, whatever works. I mean, whatever reignites your flame and gets you back. So it's cool that you found something.
Yeah. All of a sudden, I was like buying all these old records, these black metal records and stuff, and collecting a lot of that stuff. And
that's sick, dude.
And then it was like, and then I found myself collecting records of stuff that I just loved as a kid.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was like that kid again that wanted to buy all the CDs. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so then I was like
stoked.
Cool. I was going back and listening to like old Megadeth and old Metallica and
nice.
And just revisiting all these classics, you know what I mean? And then going even further, going back and like getting into like old Kiss and stuff like that. Like, starting to really pay attention to stuff that I didn't listen to when I was younger. When you're young, you're like, I only listen to this type of music. You know what I mean? And now it's like you go back and you see the influence that these bands have on other bands, and that, this band wouldn't have existed if it hadn't have been for Sabbath. You know what I mean? And like, you start to hear the influence,
Yeah. That's an interesting take, like listening to black metal with open mind.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
it's a crazy concept.
The gatekeeping thing, you really only hurt yourself in the long run. If you're open to music, you're going to find and appreciate a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
Like that's like the whole conversation around, subgenres and labels, right? Talking about, when people were bashing on deathcore or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
At some point people just stop and they grow up and they're like, yeah, music's just music. Just enjoy it. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be this, you don't have to silo yourself into this little teeny thing. It's not your entire identity. You know what I mean?
Totally.
I mean, and Trevor was a great example. He was known as like, the mayor of death metal town, right? Because he knew so much about it and was such a big fan. But he also really loved the band Nada Surf. It was like one of his favorite bands. You know what I mean?
Who was it?
Nada Surf.
Never heard of him.
They were kind of like at the end of the
Nada Surf.
grunge-ish era.
Nada Surf.
Popular for like, their main song was Popular. What year was that? Came out.
Try to get
96.
Try to get a quick chorus or something. 96.
But yeah, he loves stuff like this.
Okay. This is interesting. All right, cool.
He was pretty eclectic.
Nice.
You know what I mean? Like he was another one of those guys that like just if he liked it, he liked it. It didn't matter. More people should be that way, I think.
Yeah, it's true.
You know.
You gotta have an open mind. Oh, you know what? I learned that I think a genre becomes a genre when you start getting the gatekeepers. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that's when the genre actually blows up. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
dude, deathcore does not fuck with us. It's like a weird now. It has like a whole gatekeeping thing
It's
now.
changed, hasn't it?
It's bizarre.
It was weird being. I will say this: it was weird being in a Swedish style death metal band when deathcore started to blow up, because all of a sudden like people didn't want to hear the solos and like they didn't care about death metal. It was like, you know, we didn't have any mosh parts really. You know what I mean? So it was like weird watching the scene change right in front of us.
Interesting.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. Because at some point you step back and you're like, should we slow down? Like, are we going too fast now?
Sure.
Sure. You know, like I remember playing some show and like, you know, it was a festival type of show and Acacia Strain was playing as they were direct support. And I love those dudes. I've known Vincent since All That Remains era because they're from the same town.
Oh, yeah.
And they were direct support for us. And man, that show was theirs.
Yeah.
Kids didn't give a fuck about us. Like we went on, it was like a terrible show for us. And the whole band was miserable because we knew like no one cared.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, you know, just this weird shift in metal and stuff where it was like, you know, our guitars didn't have enough strings or something, or you know what I mean? Like there were, you know, we were going too fast or something, which is fine. It is what it is. But like, yeah, it's interesting to watch the genres change and then change more.
Change more. Full circles, go back, go leave again. Every scenario is just playing out in real time.
It's all just metal at the end of the day.
It's all metal.
You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, if you call it Sounds metal, dude, I might get jumped.
Nah, it's metal. It's all heavy.
Oh my goodness, dude. I used to call Sounds a death metal band. I will get crushed for that. Totally. Do what? Blast beats.
Right.
Blast beats.
Yeah.
Screaming. No singing. What is that?
Right.
What is it?
Right. Everything has to have its own little home, right?
It's like, what the fuck, dude?
But there's so many genre busters, man. Like Despised Icon got called deathcore, but I was like, that band like goes fast all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah, they got some like slammy parts with, you know, that you could call breakdowns and stuff, but they were like, to me, I just saw them as death metal. You know what I mean? Like the band was fast as shit.
They were fucking quick, dude. They're fucking quick, dude.
So I knew Dan before he joined the band.
Yeah.
Like I met him when I think he was bandless. And we just exchanged like death metal CDs and stuff.
Hell yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
he loves death metal very much.
Loves it. I thought he was like death metal or nothing. And then I heard that he joined Suicide Silence and I messaged him. I was like, really? Like, not that I disliked the band, but I was like,
really?
I wouldn't have saw that coming. I thought that he'd only probably play in like a unique leader type band, you know? And he was like, dude, it's fucking heavy. And I was like, point made, bro.
Right.
You know?
All right. You're like, Tex, really?
I was like,
really, dude?
Well, so I got the same thing. I got the same kind of comment from John Longstreth on MySpace, if this dates me.
Nice.
When I joined All That Remains.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
He made some comment on my
MySpace.
He was like, you can forget about blast beats, dude. And then, of course, I tried sneaking them in anywhere I could.
Yeah, just a quick little blast here and there, you know?
Yeah, a little blast doesn't hurt nobody.
That's awesome, man. How are you on time?
Dude, I got all the time in the world, brother.
Cool. All right. So you found black metal, then and then what have you been doing lately?
So the black metal thing kind of led me down. It was like the YouTube rabbit hole, but I found this guy who was going and visiting a lot of like locations from the early black metal, the early 90s scene.
Yeah.
From like Mayhem and stuff. So he
nice.
Fantoff Church that got burnt down, you know, by, you know, Burzum or whatever. And then
nice.
Just different spots from different like locations. The church that's on the front of, you know, that first Mayhem album and a bunch of different spots. And they were really entertaining. You know, he went to Helvete, the record shop, which is not called that anymore, but what used to be that location. And he had this like music playing in the background that was like his. You know, he was just making his own tunes and putting them up there. And then I saw that he had like a solo project called Triglav. And I listened to it and I was like, this is sweet. Like, you know, it's like real melodic. I wanted to do something that was really like somber and kind of just melodic black metal, just really sad, depressing sounding shit, I guess.
Yeah.
And I just left a comment on it, and I was like, "You want to make some tunes, man?" And he he was like, "Wait, are you like the Shannon Lucas that played drums for Black Dahlia?" And I was like, "Yeah, man." And he was like, "I'm down." And so we started talking, and we talked about like what kind of black metal we wanted to do and what we were currently inspired by or listening to. Passing some songs around, and yeah, he just started writing some tunes. Originally, it was like going to be 3 songs, and once we started to like work on the 3, we realized like this is pretty cool. Like, I think we got something to work with. Oh yeah, that's the logo.
It's the logo.
It's a
Holy!
fiery ball of sticks.
This might be the most unique metal logo I ever seen. So if you're just listening,
I take that as a compliment.
I urge you to. I can't even describe it. It's like a spear.
When I can see it now I can find the letters. But when I first saw it, I was like, I can't read it. And I sat with it for like a day, and I was like, man, I kind of love this. And it was kind of the same approach. Like Boris, he also wanted something that was like readable. And when I sent it to him, he spent about a day with it, and he was like, yeah, I kind of love this. Wow. And it's one of those where like in black metal, you can find logos that you can't really read, but once you know who they are and you associate them with that band, you associate the image with the band.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's completely fine. So we start working on some tunes, and we're like, well, I think we need more members. So a bass player, I already knew who I wanted. So I wanted Noah Martin. He played for Arsis for many years, and he actually lives like 35 minutes from me.
Oh, perfect.
And so I hit up Noah, and he was like, yep, I'm in. And then we went on the hunt for like a vocalist, and that was really difficult because we wanted somebody who maybe had some sort of either cred in like black metal music, or at least was like really into it, that understood, and vocally as a vocalist sounded like they fit the genre. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it was tricky. And yeah, eventually we had Adam Clemens in mind. Adam joined Skeleton Witch after Chance left.
Okay.
And I really liked what he did with them. And Adam had done some stuff in black metal. He had another project called Shadar Lagoth, and it's sick. And so we were able to reach out to him, and we eventually got him on board, which was super cool, because then I was kind of like, all right, we're good. And then came keys and effects later. Wasn't something we thought about initially, but we weren't opposed to it. But we were like, man, this is really kind of vibey black metal, like moody shit, like we could stand to have some like, maybe not like total symphonic like Dimmu, but like, more vibe and effects driven kind of stuff.
Nice.
And we ended up getting Steve, who's also in Shadar Lagoth with Adam.
Nice.
Steve actually did all the instruments on the Shadar albums. They have a couple albums, and
great.
He did keys and effects like in like record time. We literally were getting ready to like ship it off to get it mixed.
Oh wow.
And there was an incident, and with a prior person that we were going to have do some keys and stuff, and we were like, all right, scrap all that. We brought in Steve, and we were like, we're kind of short on time, and he was like, I got it. And nailed it. He nailed exactly the vibe we were looking for. It was perfect. It was like it just meant to be.
Oh wow.
And it's currently being mixed by Mark Lewis. So pass it off to him. It's like, here's some black metal tunes. And the funny thing with the mixing is, there's a specific sound, right? We talked about like production and stuff like that. And I think Mark was like, what's direction for me? And it was kind of, I was like, I don't know, cold. He was like, I don't have a cold button. What does that mean? But we really talked about frequency and volume. And I think, we're now kind of on the same page. Like I kind of referenced some, don't sound like, I'm not trying to sound like this record or this record, but when I say this kind of vibe, here's what, you could expect. Right. So, yeah, man, this is meant to be a passion project. Like, it's not about money. We didn't want anybody to feel rushed with time. We've been working on this thing for a few years.
Nice.
It's 5 songs. Some of the tracks are a little longer, 5-6 minutes, but like, we just wanted to do something that was fun. It wasn't about money. You know what I mean? I don't even have a problem paying out of pocket for shit. You know what I mean? before we release, we'll probably try to, get a label involved to help, press and release or whatever.
Oh,
but
cool.
Ultimately, I want to make music and put it out. That's it.
Nice.
Make more music, put it out. Make more music, put it out.
So I know people are stoked to hear what you do,
Yeah, it's for us. It's vibey. You know what I mean? And yeah, there's no competition here. We just want to do something that moves us. And if people dig it, then cool. If they don't, then we'll move on.
Is there any do you have any kind of release kind of time in mind?
Not really. And that's part of the benefit of something like this is that we don't have to abide by some sort of timeline. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm sure the mix and master will be done in the next, month or two ish. And then after that, it's figuring out the best way to release it and how we want to release it. You know what I mean?
You guys should put out shirts first.
Shirts first.
Yeah. Just you have the logo, to put out merch first and see how people like react to it.
I should see if Kareem wants to put it out on their night shift.
There you go. And then never put out music. Just keep putting out merch drops.
The band that never released a single song.
That'd be sick, dude.
I could start a whole nother project and do that.
I'm gonna do that with Suicide Songs. I'm just gonna do it. Band's over.
Yeah.
Put
just nothing
merch.
but merch.
That'd be sick. That's my plan B.
Sweet.
Well, Shannon, are you going to NAMM?
Yes.
So today's your NAMM day.
Today. Well, I'm here through the weekend, so
nice.
Maybe bouncing around, hanging out,
Bouncing.
hoping to run into a bunch of old friends.
Nice.
And there's some other YouTube cats are out here hanging. Just dudes with guitar channels that I have made friends with.
Oh yeah.
There's Jamie Slays, UK dude, does a lot of guitar stuff. Actually did a song with him. We haven't finished it. I mean, my part's done, his part's done, I guess, but we have to find, a vocalist or something like that. But just something fun, to do.
It's fun.
Like
nice.
Collaborating on songs with people. Eric Moretin, he's got a channel. He does a lot of guitar stuff. He's a dime enthusiast, so we met kind of through that. And he did a collab in December. It was like the 20th anniversary of Dimebag. And so it's a bunch of guitar players that are dime enthusiasts ripping solos. Wow. And I actually took part in it. I took a stab at a solo. So
really?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So that was a lot of fun.
Let's go, dude.
Yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun, man. So I'm just here to hang out with a bunch of people and see who shows up. Dude, who we should have got to hang with us today was Bart.
Oh.
He lives right up the road.
He lives here?
Well, he's in LA.
He does?
Did you ever tour? You ever get to tour with Bart? He had just left, I think, before we went to South America with you guys. That was because Max, that was like early Max, I think.
I don't know.
We did you guys did that Carcass run. And we played I think the Illinois date with you guys.
I forgot about that.
Was years ago.
I forgot about that, man. That crowd hated us.
I don't know, man. You guys are on fire.
I've probably seen that way because we were in prime. But it's just crowds like that, man. It's tough. Carcass crowds, Nile crowds, Behemoth crowds were just fucking.
Well, that's where you get into that gatekeeping shit, right?
God.
But the Cannibal tour was sick.
Cannibal was good. Cannibal's the one band that anyone could come play with. It's cool.
Yeah.
I wonder how they did that.
I don't know. I think there's such a household name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know.
How did they do that?
They're so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? They're just so heavy. Like when they're blasting, it's like chopping wood.
It's goats. It's just fucking primal blast, dude.
I didn't have time to dig it up, but I got photos when we all got to South America. We all got to Brazil. We went to that Brazilian steakhouse.
Oh, the steakhouse.
And I got a photo of like all three bands at that table.
Wow.
Just chowing down, man.
Damn, dude, those steakhouses were something else, dude.
Yeah.
That's when you feel like a king sometimes, right? Every once in a while, you're like, oh, this is a good moment, dude.
Was it Chile? When we all it was the outdoor one. One of those is outdoor. Mm-hmm. And like we had like the tent dressing rooms in the back behind the stage.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
There was like the 3 porta potties that had like the band's logo on them.
Yeah.
I was like, man, we've elevated. We got our own toilet.
Don't use my porta potty, dude.
Dude.
I'll be pissed, dude.
That was a good time, man.
Shannon, did we miss anything? We've been going for over 2 hours.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Do we miss anything you want the world to know?
Oh yeah, so there's the Wolven Spirit stuff, and then I don't know when. So I don't know when it's gonna get released, but Ken Bedene from Aborted has got another project that. So I don't know if you knew, but he's like a killer songwriter.
Of course.
He's a good guitar player.
Nice.
A great guitar player, and he's a great songwriter. He's got a project called AERITH.
AERITH, okay.
And I don't even know its original conception. It was like him, and there was a guy he knows that is a vocalist who wanted to do a project, and originally kind of, I don't know if he hired him or what, but he got Ken to write an album, and it kind of like just grew and sprouted its own legs and stuff. And there's like guests on every single song, like killer guests.
Sick.
Like Lee McKinnon and Chaney. And
oh, nice.
John Kay, old Black Dahlia guitar player. Yeah. One of them, Trevor, guested on.
Wow.
And I ended up getting roped in because Ken and I are buds, and we chat and talk drums a lot. And originally I was just going to do the one track that had Trevor and John on it, because it would have been the first time the three of us had played on the same track since Nocturnal.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And I agreed to do that one. And I was like so pumped, and I was very honored that he let me do it.
Yeah.
And then it turned into, we actually just split the album. So he played drums on half, I played drums on half.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so it's interesting, but that's done. I don't know when it's going to get released, but that'll be a cool one. I'm excited for people to hear that, I think, especially the track with Trevor. I think, and people should hear as much as they can.
That'll be sick, dude. Wow.
So it's a good tune, man. The whole album's really good. He's a good songwriter. So yeah, at some point.
At some point, right? At some point, sometime in the future.
Yeah, man.
Cool. So you're still in Virginia, just chilling?
Yeah, man.
Cool.
Got my
Hell
day-to-day.
yeah.
Got my day-to-day that I love. And,
cool.
Get to play music for fun. And
fuck yeah,
that's
dude.
the life for me, man.
Dude, it's great to see you, man. I'm honored that you took the time and, you seem like a private guy. You still came here and told your story.
Oh, man. I appreciate it,
honored.
man. I just love chilling.
I'm honored, man.
Telling stories and chatting, man.
It's dope.
Yeah, you've had some really cool dudes on this show. I've really enjoyed it.
Thank you, man.
Yeah.
It's so weird. It's so weird that it's me. Sometimes you see something like, wow, is that me? It's fucking weird.
Killing it out here, man. Killing it.
I'm honored. All right, well, I'll probably see you. I think one of the last time, real quick, one of the last times I saw you was, I was, who's that drunk guy? And then Ernie said, dude, it's fucking Shannon. I was like, oh shit, dude, because I haven't fucking seen you in so long.
Yeah.
So it's cool to fucking sit down and chat about life, man.
Yeah, man.
Thank you, man. All right, well,
thanks for having me.
I'll see you around NAMM.
Sick.
Right. All right, man. That's it. Later.